Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Hey everybody, welcome back to J is for Justice. My name is Drew. No, it's Jay, and I'm your host. Welcome in, guys, for the Chad Daybell highlights. We have a little funny put together today for Dumbbell. This is the Dumbbell trial. Oh, Jess, our Jess is in the hospital. Let's send Jess lots of good vibes and healing vibes, healing prayers, thoughts. We're sending everything Jess's way today. She's wearing her J is for Justice shirt, too. Unbelievable. Jess, we love you. We really do. I hope you're out of that bed soon. That's awful. I'm sorry you have to go through that. But I'm glad that I'm here to entertain you today. I hope you do enjoy this stream today. It's really amazing because we're actually going to be able to get through yesterday, which is day 3. And the morning of day 4. So welcome into the Dumbbell trial highlights. It does actually get pretty good. If I do say so myself, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't at least slightly entertaining. If it wasn't at least slightly, I wouldn't be here. You can trust in that. It's got to be at least slightly entertaining. And Pryor has delivered. I thought he was going to be slightly entertaining, and he has. I have to say he is annoying at times, but he is kind of funny. His sarcasm and the way that he lawyers, it's like no other. I guess I can just say that. Let me get your chats pinned up here on the screen because I want to show everybody what this amazing community has to say to the world. So if you're just joining, we are going to be going over day 3 and the morning of day 4. So we should be caught up to right after lunch. So that is just a little funny. That's Dumbbell. That's not actually Chad's body. It's not Chad's body, trust me. This is the Dumbbell trial. I had an epiphany this morning, and I was in Discord, and I said, hey, Potato, I didn't even say, hey, Potato. I just said, hey, I need a picture of Chad's head on a bodybuilder with dumbbells. So the other one's in the community post for members. J-Lo was like, ooh la la, I might write Chad Dumbbell up in jail. Melissa, I'm so happy to see you. It's getting a little bright in here. Yeah, Mr. Dumbbell. Oh, he's cooked, guys. I mean, from what I just heard in day 3 and then the morning today, I think you guys are going to agree that he's cooked. So thanks for joining. We're going to get right into it. Good afternoon, Wiggly. Hot potato, hot potato. That's your song, the Wigglies. Isn't that their name, the Wigglies? The guys that sang in the different colors and yeah, the Wigglies. Potato, banana, that guy, those guys. All right, I'm going to shut the hell up. But welcome to day 3 a.m. of Chad Daybell. This is going to be interesting. What you see in the background is Chad Daybell in the back of the cop car, which we love. He's on his way. Oh, wait, let me get my audio working. Oh, the Wiggles, the Wigglies, close enough. Anyways, Chad is on his way to...
Going to the clinker, the big house.
And he's in the back of the car. And his daughter, Emma is on the thumbnail. And Emma gets to chat with Chad in his chin before he goes off to the clinker. So I zoomed in on the thing so we could see the exhibity the best we could. And then we can watch Chad's reaction, the chin's reaction to this body cam footage. So let's get into it, guys. Thanks for being here. Make sure you hit that like button, you bananas.
My patrol.
Oh, and FYI, this is going to be the exhibity, but then I'll introduce each section because I basically did cross. I know, Scott H. I'm still elated, but I'm going to speed this up just a touch and see how it goes. And then if it's too slow, we can speed it up again. We'll be done with day 3 and the morning of day 4 in less than 2 hours.
Vehicle with Chad Daybell sitting in the back section where we have our detainees.
And to confirm also, is this the day of June 9th, 2020?
Yes.
So this is all relative to the search that you've been testifying about already?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for being here.
Oh, you understand why I have to do that?
Yeah.
So you just stay here with them? Okay.
Hi. They said I could talk with you and I didn't want you to be alone.
Judge, I'm going to stop at 1 minute, 1 hour, 3 minutes and 17 seconds and ask a question. Detective Wheeler, are you aware of who is the person that has just approached Mr. Daybell in the vehicle?
Happy
His
anniversary,
daughter, Emma.
Sherry.
Thank you.
I love you so much.
I love you.
Glad you came over.
I thought they had taken you downtown already.
I got about to the Fremont County line.
I saw it as soon as you left.
Again, stopping at 1 hour, 3 minutes and 38 seconds.
Trying to give it some
Detective Wheeler,
game.
can you just explain to the jury the positioning of your patrol vehicle relative to the Daybell property and vantage points
That should be
can be
good.
seen from where Mr. Daybell is sitting as he sits now?
So we're parked on the south side of the residence. I believe the road is 200 north. So we're just south of the residence and facing west. And so if he were to look right outside of that open door, he would be looking at his house.
And from his sitting position, would he have a vantage point to see the pond area on his property or the fire pit area on his property?
From that position, he would just have to look over to his right shoulder and out that door, kind of towards the back of the vehicle.
What would he be able to see if he did that?
He'd be able to see the fire pit area for sure.
And to be clear, whose remains were found in the fire pit?
That was Tylee.
I'm going to go ahead and play this continuously for a while, Your Honor.
Chased you down and then they came back.
Well, just concerning the car, I know there's,
Asked them
Oh,
about
okay.
it.
What's that?
just about the car.
Oh, we'll take care of the car. We're gonna take it.
Is she able
and then
to
we'll-
get it?
Yeah, you can get that. We may have to go through the car, if you're arrested in it,
Right.
this thing we gotta do, but then
She can have her bananas and her,
I gave him
First-
food.
we'll try to get the car before it's spoiled. How's that?
You can eat it.
The way they're both giggling.
so Eric, or wrong. So like my wallet, will that be able for her to pick up or could I turn
Yeah.
that over to her right now?
Is that in the car, is that here?
It's right here.
That's, it's up to you. I don't see, can I look through it? Just make
Sure.
They're going to get Mark.
Lisa?
No, so
Oh.
dark.
Is there anything that you're gonna need in that?
Well, she'll be running my finances, I suppose, so. That has a little money on it. You could,
Okay, just, so these are credit cards, so you're good if she just takes them,
yeah.
correct?
In the middle drawer on the left side in Mark's room, there's about $9,000 in 2 white envelopes.
Okay.
So get that.
Wait, how much money did he say was in the envelope? I need to slow this part down because his chin is talking faster than I'm used to. Let's go back a little bit. I want to see what he said.
So these are credit cards, so you're good if she just takes them.
Yeah.
Sherry, thank you so much for your generous super sticker.
Um,
Bonnie.
in the middle drawer on the left side in Mark's room, there's about $9,000 in 2 white envelopes.
9,000.
Okay.
So get that. Yeah, so we'll talk more about car payments and stuff, but you have that password.
I do.
I believe the Hawaiian,
That's this one.
First Hawaiian Bank, if you use that same password for this account, it's Chad Daybell.
Dumbbell.
What else is in here?
He's intently watching the screen, though, in court. Put your chin in the air if you just don't care.
This has nothing on it. It's like $6. That has to go away.
I know, right,
So this-
Makita? Fuck.
Okay, in that same drawer, you can grab it,
In the same drawer.
is a piece of this that would fit in here, and it's got a company card, company business card,
Thank you, Melissa.
and so just make sure you get that.
And this is all in Mark's room.
Yeah, I put that in there. There's like a pamphlet with a guy who's sitting in a car. It's for the Wells Fargo auto loan.
That's the loan that they went on.
Yeah. And
Oh, he's talking about a
so
loan.
that we'll talk about. So this has, if you go to Telmate, this is the card that's used.
Okay.
And so all you really do, you could probably just sign in as Chad.Daybell or start your own.
I have an account that I've been talking with Lori on.
Okay.
Oh,
But
wait.
you could use this.
Oh my God, Emma. This is Chad and his daughter, Emma, if you're just joining. And Emma, he's telling her about like renewing the phone or something. And she said, I already have, or no, I'm sorry, not renewing the phone, talking on the phone in jail through the telecom system. And she says, I already have an account because I spoke with Lori. Emma was talking on a jail call with Lori. Wow. Now that's some weird shit. Your mom dies and then you're talking on the phone with your dad's new wife and she's in jail because her kids were found on your property? The fuck?
What?
Emma. Emma is supposed to testify on her dad's behalf as well.
We'll talk about it. So this has, if you go to Telmate, this is the card that's used.
Okay.
And so all you really do, you could probably just sign in as Chad.Daybell or start your own.
I have an account that I've been talking with Lori on.
Okay. But you could use this
To
card,
add money.
yeah, and to her if needed.
Okay.
So, yeah, she'll need to still have commissary money. Usually puts 30 a week in there. So. And you can probably talk to her too.
Okay.
They had also visited Knox Berry Farm as a family.
I love you so much.
Chad, you don't know. Ooh, you are so skeezy.
Cooperate with them as much as you feel. You know what I mean?
I'm stopping at 107:58, Your Honor. Detective, based on your knowledge, at this point that day in the search, had law enforcement asked for any cooperation from Emma?
I can't testify to that because I don't know the extent of that.
Fair enough. Then narrowing it just to you, had you asked her to do anything or asked for any kind of cooperation from her?
No.
Thank you.
They've been kind to us today. I texted John Pryor, so he has my number. He said thank you.
Okay. A lot of the company stuff that pays for the house should just auto pay still out of that
What company?
company account.
His publishing
And I
company?
left 5,000 in there.
Okay.
If you need something, come find me.
Okay. Thank you.
He had $5,000 in a business account. I don't know for what business. The business of brainwashing people and wasn't very lucrative. $5,000. I mean, I'd love to have $5,000 sitting here right now, but just saying, like, this dude was not some, high ranking person that people were fawning over, except for a few dumb women.
Any other questions you have?
I think, well, it sounds like you're not going to be out in a little
Right.
while. So I think my landlord texted me just to feel bad for me. I think I'm going to come over here.
That's what I needed you to say, because, yeah, you and Joe,
Stopping at 109:04, Detective Wheeler, I just want to reiterate, we just heard that comment about he's not likely going to be out. At that point in time,
He
you
laughed.
had not formally put him under arrest. Is that right?
He's like, oh,
Aside from
no.
placing him in handcuffs and detaining him, no.
But you didn't advise him of potential charges or anything like that at that point?
No.
And as far as you know, had any other law enforcement advised him of any specific charges that he may be facing?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you.
and whatever Mark wants to do,
Mark
he
means
should
he's
stay
talking
with me
about
here.
the lawyer.
I'll take care of me. That's the card. I will, Dad. They'll take care of me. We'll
But-
take care of you the best we can. Sorry to interrupt.
So
He is
keep
so
paying
dead
the
emotionally.
mortgage out of the company.
Do you hear that? Emma is crying. She's in tears. And whoever her husband, I can't remember his name right now, but she's like, he's going to take care of me, Dad. Like, don't worry about me. He's like, just keep paying the mortgage because he knows damn well he going to end up giving that house right to John Pryor. And he ain't caring about her tears. What a horrible, horrible human being this guy is.
They'll take care of me. We'll take care of you the best we can. Sorry to interrupt.
So
What a
keep
dick.
paying the mortgage out of the company.
Okay.
No, you can probably set it up though.
Okay.
I'm trying to, it's Wells Fargo. In that same pamphlet,
Him and his fucking pamphlets.
I'll look,
But-
but I've had a lot of success with mom stuff. Just saying, will you help me? My mom died. I'm pretty sure. Will you help me? My dad's in jail. That's the same.
it should be paid through.
Wow. So she says she's not afraid to ask for help because she's had to ask for help with her deceased mother's stuff. And she's pretty sure that, saying my mom died, I need help, that saying my dad's in jail will have the same effect. Y'all, this is not just Chad and Lori that are delusional and potentially dangerous, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But what you're going to hear later in their Google searches and their text messages to one another is fucked up.
July 1st.
Okay.
And I think the car is paid through July 15th. So you shouldn't have any bills to worry about. Yeah, I'm not coming back. So all that stuff that's in the baby room is Lori's and mine. The suitcases you'll see in the box. Just put it in the garage, I guess, after.
Store it. See what happens.
You guys can, yeah, take that mattress from upstairs, I guess, do what you want, put the books back on the shelf.
What?
We're gonna make it through. I'm glad we could talk. I'm glad they let you come over.
I started crying and Lieutenant Ball went, do you want to talk to him? And like, can I? He said, he's just over there. Like, oh, that changes things. So you probably saw us out there.
Yeah, I was watching. So, hopefully things will slow down for you guys and get left alone. But yeah, they'll let you move out of there. You just get over here. You get guard.
Well, I
It still feels better.
would be moving soon. That's what the spirit was telling me, but I didn't know how it'll. I felt like I needed to learn more,
Hmm.
and now I get it.
Now she gets it?
So yeah, this is essentially the house, and we'll talk to John Pryor about the financial arrangement, but you should be fine for a while.
I think long enough to get on our feet.
I have a lot in that account with the other attorney, so that will take care of me for a while.
He's worried about himself. I have a lot in that account with the other attorney. Where did he get a lot to put in the account with the attorney? Mock means. So I'll be okay for a while. She ain't worried about you. She's crying because her mother's dead and you're fixing to go to jail and you're straight up like, yeah, I'm not coming back. My chin might be here for a little while after they drive away, but it'll be gone in probably the next half hour or so. It'll follow me to the clinker. These people.
God almighty.
And maybe we just do a refinance on the house or a home equity loan.
Does it,
I don't think it's gonna break us. I think that might be an option there. I might need to authorize putting you on the
the
mortgage.
account with you? And just probably leave Joe off it.
Yeah,
Who's Joe?
yeah, keep me on it with you. And
Do you have accounts like that when you're in jail?
I don't know.
She asks the cop, can you have accounts like that when you're in jail? And they giggle. The giggling is enough for me. Can't take it.
I guess this is the part you get to that there's someone else's responsibility.
Well, technically Spring Creek Book Company's office, so you can, we'll manage it that way and find a way.
And you have you can send things through Amazon to the jail?
Yeah.
So like, I couldn't send you a package, but Amazon, if I ordered it through there, it could get to you.
She's already worried
Yeah.
about sending him packages.
I'll only do that as you ask for stuff.
Lori would know the Amazon account.
I'll talk to her.
Yeah,
Wow. Lori would know the Amazon account. Thank you so much, Anna Pekarsky. Coming in hot. And since
Coming in hot, just like the fajita.
Since I paused it, I want to give a special birthday wish, which it is actually belated, but she was on vacation. So it's all good, right, Case? Happy birthday to our one, our only, the sweetheart of the bunch, the one who goes out of her way for others, the one that is a fantastic mother. Happy birthday to you, Casey. And I'm glad that I got to wish you a very happy birthday.
Go, shorty, it's your birthday.
And we're back. Happy birthday, Case. All right. Yeah, I guess they can send Amazon. And he says, well, Lori knows the Amazon account. Good afternoon, Lisa Rose and Trey. Welcome in. Hello, Core.
because I have like $265 or so in there as gift certificates,
The fuck?
so don't pay.
Yeah, I won't.
We'll get it figured out. It's like Cholo 1105. Same as a,
Oh my God. He's got $200 and some in gift certificates in Amazon. What did he return? I bet you the rings didn't fit or something. Or maybe his shirt, like, it didn't fit around his chin. I don't know. They sent shit back. He's like, don't worry, baby. There's a credit on the Amazon account.
I'll talk to her.
yeah.
And
'Cause
I'll
I have
talk to
like
Lori.
$265 or so in there as gift certificates, so don't pay.
Yeah, I won't.
We'll get it figured out. It's like Cholo 1105. Same as for Loves Elena at iCloud.com, I believe is the password. I don't know what they're gonna do with the computers.
Okay, before we get into the computers, I just want to say that I don't know how old she is, Emma, but she's married and she has a baby at this point. So she's old enough to have that. Zelda. Fuck, well, look at it.
You could probably, it wasn't part of the search warrant.
Do you know, are they leaving the computers?
Well,
Does he really think they're not going to take his computers? They're finding remains. Or they're looking for remains. They haven't found them yet. But Or have they found them? Maybe they did find them by now. I'm not sure. But does he think that there's these people?
So they were in my bag. They were in the car.
With him.
They'll probably hold on to those and try to get it out.
Okay, but things that are currently in the house will likely be left.
I don't know what they're going to take out.
Cops like, I don't know what they're taking.
Okay.
Probably taking the fucking everything.
When we clear from here, whatever's in there.
It'll be left. Okay.
I talked to them and told them the bedrooms and to not mess it up. And they didn't seem like they were gonna luminol at all.
Okay.
But yeah, get Garth and Beth moved, and you guys come over here. It'll work out. It's all in the Lord's hands. We'll talk. Use that cellmate. I don't know if I'm Madison or Fremont. I think they're deciding that right now. But
That's what it sounded like. Detective Ball wouldn't, or Lieutenant Ball wouldn't say because he didn't know.
I'm sure Fremont has a cellmate system. So.
Well, at Fremont, when I went in to get fingerprinted to teach, I was like in there, like in the jail. I was like in my like teacher clothes. This little recent grad. So I don't know what they do.
She just said that she went to get fingerprinted for her teaching job. She's comparing this to what her dad's about to go through. These people are so fucking delusional. It's scary to me.
I was like in there, like in the jail. I was like in my like teacher clothes. This little recent grad. So I don't know what they do.
I was in my teacher clothes, just this little recent grad. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's like this girl's married and has a child, but she sounds like she's 12. You know?
Sorry, all the neighbors are going to be talking, but you
They
just.
already are.
The neighbors.
We're okay, Dad.
Well, I,
We're okay.
No, they're not.
You raised us that we're independent now.
We're okay, Dad. Do you hear the burden these kids take on for this selfish son of a bitch?
but you
They
just.
already are. We're okay, Dad.
Well, I,
We're okay. You raised us that we're independent now with your wallet.
You
Glad you
raised
got
us.
We're not holding.
You raised us. We're independent now. He. With your wallet.
With her. I might not tell Joe about it either.
about the money.
Yeah, I have an account that's just in my name.
This is her husband she talking about. Wait. Joe is Emma's husband. Emma is married and has a baby with her husband. And she's like, oh, I don't think I'm going to tell Joe about the money. I have an account that's just in my name. The chin doesn't fall far from the face, does it? What the I wonder what Joe thought of this. I wonder what Joe thought of this. Oh my God. Dude, these people are something else.
That doesn't have the cash laying around.
I don't have the cash.
So you need some.
I think they've been okay. They're talking with her. I might not tell Joe about it either.
About the money?
Yeah, I have an account that's just in my name. I'm just gonna put it in there. Wait,
Well, Garth knows about that money.
Garth doesn't spend this frivolously, Joe.
The checkbooks are in that drawer too, if needed. But you shouldn't need them. If at some point you feel you need to clear out the Hawaii account or something, you can check my email. Yeah, pick that computer, but my email, that Rexburg password is pretty much
Is that
everything
okay?
for the bank.
All of his passwords were straight up Rexburg. Dude, this guy's a moron. All of his passwords were Rexburg.
Or my email. Cholo 1105, but I think I switched to all of those. Yeah, I talked to Lori just for like 2 minutes. So she's aware they were searching.
Was she surprised?
She seemed bothered or disturbed. I mean, yeah, but
Oh my God. Okay, so right before this interaction with Emma, he's on the phone. He's sitting in the driveway of Emma's house. And he's on the phone with Lori. And he says, Mark Means is going to contact you soon. This was a big piece of the trial, and Pryor's going to bring it up in a little bit. So Chad Daybell is sitting across the street watching all of this law enforcement action, helicopters overhead, and he doesn't know what to do. So he gets a call from Lori, and he answers it, and he's like, they're here searching. I'm sure you guys have all heard that call by now. So they hang up, and then he takes off. He claims he was going to meet Mark Means, but it sounds to me like he already talked to Mark, because that call, Lori asks him, did you talk to Mark? He says, yes. This is during the search. So Chad Daybell starts to drive down the road. And these authorities are like, oh, hell to the fuck no. He's fleeing. So they go after him and they pull him over on the side of the road. So he was literally arrested on the side of the road that he lives on, or, you know, another road over. It wasn't very far from his house. And this is when they put him in the back of the car. Well, Miss Emma sees this go down because he was sitting in Miss Emma's driveway, who lived across the street. So Emma comes down to see what's going on. And she sees her dad in the back of this police car. And so they have this conversation, and he's trying to get finances, and he's getting his wallet and giving her all of the account information that he can in this conversation.
So yeah, I'll be fine.
I don't know what they told you, because I asked Lieutenant Ball, where did you find the human remains? That's what they told me, is that they found human remains. And I said, well, there are several dogs that have been buried there. And he said, respectfully, Emma, I can tell the difference of human remains.
Okay, so they were found. They were found. So she asked one of the investigators, are you investigating or have you found human remains? And he confirmed, yes, we believe that we found human remains. And Miss Emma followed up with the FBI or whoever it was and said, you know, there's a lot of animals buried there, sir. And he said, you know what, ma'am? I think I know the difference between animal and human remains. Wow.
And I asked, where was it? And he said, over by the pond under that tree. But it was in the ground and had boards over it.
Okay.
But that didn't. Jason and I have walked all over there.
Yeah.
That, and I can see in your face that surprised you, because they asked, do you want to know what he's charged for? And then they went, well, actually, we don't have it. They said, we don't want to tell you something wrong.
I don't know if they're gonna charge you for that. How they're gonna.
And so he told me that what they're looking at is that they found one body with the probable cause. There's likely two. So I asked her, "Are you gonna search the property forever until it's found?" And he said, "Well, no, but we're going to look." And he said, because I said, "What about, this is the home for my siblings and there's a baby." And he said, "If you're not able to get back in tonight, we'll hook them up with a hotel."
Oh,
But
no.
you're not in trouble.
Oh, no.
I think they'll let them back.
I
There's nothing in the house.
There's nothing in the house. It's all in the yard.
Stopping at 1 hour, 19 minutes and 17 seconds. Detective Wheeler, at that point, to the best that you can recall, was any of the search focused inside of the house?
Not that I can recall.
So the focus, as based on your memory, was all outside of the house.
Correct.
Thank you.
Focused on the house at all.
We've kind of been looking in it in the yard.
Yeah, I mean, Mark gets back, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I think we're okay coming over. We just have to have law enforcement escort us onto the scene.
Oh
And
my God. The fact that they even want to go on the fucking scene. What are they talking about? I think we can go in the house, but we need escorts. Ma'am, you just confirmed they found a body and you want to go in that house. What is wrong with these people? And he's sitting there like, yeah, I'm not coming back.
We'll make it through.
Mark deals with trauma weird that he just acts vaguely unimpressed. So I called him and said, "Dad got arrested," and he said, "Well, I guess I should come home." Yeah, Mark, you should.
Yeah.
Whoa. These dynamics in the Daybell family are so effed up.
Your mom's right. Jeffrey Dahmer kind of.
So his other son, Mark, she says, is talking about dad got arrested or is getting arrested. And Mark's reply, "I better come home." And she laughs. Yeah, you better, Mark. He. Last week we were with Dad and Lori at Knox Berry Farm having peanut butter and jelly. And this week Dad's getting arrested. You might want to come home. Dude, all of these people are Looney Tunes. She's raising a child, people. She's raising a child. What are we going to see in 21 years when Emma's child is 21? It's effing scary.
We'll make it through.
Mark deals with trauma weird that he just acts vaguely unimpressed. So I called him and said, "Dad got arrested," and he said, "Well, I guess I should come home." Yeah, Mark, you should.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to go. Don't go yet.
I don't want to. Joe is home. He's home and he has Chase. Garth and Seth went in Garth's car to pick up Mark.
So if you can get
Another
that.
couple seconds.
Okay. Yeah, just let Mark use the Equinox or however you rearrange the cars. But yeah, it's all a matter of timing. It seemed to come together. But I love you.
Love you very much. Thank you for letting me speak with her.
Just when that cellmate, once I'm available to talk, we can talk. So, thank you. Love you.
You don't give a rat's
I'm
ass.
stopping at 121:16. For the record,
Is
I'm
that
going to
not
advance
shocking?
to 121:39.
No, older, not at all. These people are cray cray.
121:36.
I don't know how old
Detective
she
Will,
is.
I just invite you to watch carefully what Chad does, and I'm going to stop and let you explain
Okay,
any
watch
significance to
carefully
that.
and watch Chad. Rubberneck in the fuck? What is he looking at? I didn't know his chin could stretch that far.
Stopping at 121:47. Detective, what direction is Mr. Daybell looking when he just turned his head and looked back?
It appears to me he's looking over to the fire pit area.
And that is in fact where Tylee's remains were found.
Yes,
And you were present when her remains were found, is that correct?
I was.
Can you just briefly describe what your observations were when you were involved in that process?
So I had been tasked with helping carefully excavate around the remains. The odor was horrible.
This is
The decay had set in. We were
massive.
trying to get pieces of flesh and bones as much kept together as possible until we were able to get most of it out and laid out and packaged.
Thank you. And to be clear for the jury, before you became involved in the actual search and helped find Tylee, what did you do with Chad in the back of your patrol car?
So shortly after that, we were asked to transport him to the Fremont County Jail. So Detective Schmidt and I transported him to that facility.
So then what did you do after you transported him back to the jail?
I was asked to come back to the scene, and that's where I was informed that they'd also found an area where
I'm going to object at this point. That's calls for hearsay.
It sounds like there wasn't foundation for that, so I'll sustain that.
So when you returned, what did you do specifically?
I assisted in searching the area of the fire pit.
And were you the lead investigator at that point?
No.
Was there a lead investigator?
Yes.
And were you following directions from whomever that was?
Yes.
As you recall, who was that person?
It would have been either Lieutenant Ball or Detective Hermosillo, but I can't say for sure.
There's no doubt you were a subordinate. Is that fair?
No doubt.
I think the last question, about how long were you back at the property in this process of recovering Tylee's remains?
I had returned back to the property at approximately 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon after I dropped Chad off, and we were there the rest of that day and into the next day, the 10th.
Drop Chad's chin
Approximately
off.
how many hours the rest of that day were you there?
I had to estimate another 5 or 6. I also assisted in setting up light trailers. And
Are stipulating to Defense
Okay, wait,
Exhibit
let-
63,
Let me stop.
which represents the body cam.
Okay, so I didn't get into all of the gruesome of the recovering of the remains because that's what they spent a lot of time talking about. We've heard that already in Lori's trial, and quite frankly, I don't think any of us want to hear it again. So now we have Cross. Look at Chad's face already. Look at his shifty ass. So Pryor is up at the podium, and this is Pryor's cross-examination of the witness who was questioned, like who was standing there for the body cam, the cop. So this cop is on the stand.
Of Officer Wheeler, which I don't think has been brought up yet.
All right. Exhibit 63 was clarified. It is not the same as what we previously said was 300B.
Just
So
ignore this part.
63
This
is a new exhibit, and I understand the state's reviewed that. Is there any objection to Exhibit 63 being admitted? All right. Exhibit 63 is admitted then. Mr. Pryor, you can commence with your cross.
And Judge, at the appropriate time, I'll ask permission to publish when I get to that point.
Very well.
Officer Wheeler, I just want to clarify a couple of things if we could.
Yep.
I want to clarify your role from the morning when you arrived at 7 a.m. and your testimony is you did arrive at about 7 a.m. Is that right?
correct.
Okay. And then what was your role immediately at 7 a.m.?
So I assisted in securing the front roadway that goes in front of the property, 1900 East. And then just assisting with any crowd control and traffic control at that intersection in that road.
Okay. Was there a significant crowd there at that point?
No, there had not been right at 7.
Okay. And approximately how many officers were there at the time?
I can't testify to that.
Okay, you did say multiple agencies, right?
Correct.
Those agencies would include the FBI,
Yes.
the Rexburg Police Department,
Yes.
the Fremont County Police Department,
Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff's Office,
And Emma was
Sheriff's
not
Office,
shook by
yes.
this.
Madison County as well?
Emma was not
I don't
shook.
recall seeing any Madison County to my knowledge.
Okay, any other citizens there other than law enforcement who were present that you recognized
Not on the property, no.
on the 9th?
Not on it. Nope.
Okay. Okay. Now, your duties at the time back on this date of 2020, what was your primary job other than this, working on this case at that time?
I was a sergeant in patrol, so helping with scheduling, shift coverage.
So you would also go out on patrol and you would do, that was part of your role, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you're with, and at the time, you were, this is where I'm a little confused. At the time you were with the Rexburg Police Department or were you with a different agency?
Rexburg Police Department.
Okay. And as part of your duties, as part of your role as a sergeant, supervisory
Pay
role,
attention to this.
you had a vehicle with a camera inside, right?
Yes.
And the camera also videotaped outside, is that right?
Yes.
And as part of your role in a supervisory position with the Rexburg Police Department, you also carried a body cam, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it was standard for you to carry a body cam as part of your role as in a supervisory position, is that right?
For patrol, yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, in describing Fremont County, that's a rural part of town out near Mr. Daybell's place. Is that fair?
Yes.
Daybell. He almost said Daybell.
Now, from 7 o'clock until what time did you leave your role as your supervisory position in overseeing the comings and goings of people going onto the property?
I would say when I was asked to make the traffic stop.
So, in other words, you were there at 7 a.m. And when you made the traffic stop, and again, what time was that?
I believe it was approximately 11:20 a.m.
Okay, so you were there for approximately 4 hours and 20 minutes. Your role was to supervise the outside of the property there and obviously keep an eye on Mr. Daybell, right?
Correct.
Okay. And from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock, again, tell me where Mr. Daybell's whereabouts were?
So initially he got into his car, moved it to the west side of his home in the driveway. Later took it over to the house kitty corner from his property and then left southbound on 1900 East.
Okay, so from the time he parked the car in the driveway, how long did he sit in the driveway?
This would be an estimation,
Oh,
approximately an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, so and I'm not going to hold you to this. 7 to 8 o'clock is fair for him being in the driveway.
He didn't exit the house till 7:30,
Okay, 7 to 8:30 in the driveway?
approximately.
And then you saw him get in his car and you said that he was the tail end was backed into the garage, right?
At his property, yes.
So the tail end of his vehicle was to the back where the garage is.
Correct.
And how far from the back of the garage was Mr. Daybell's bumper? Can you tell me?
I couldn't.
Was it close? Was it far?
To the garage?
Yeah.
Back bumper to the garage?
Yeah.
I know you could walk between it.
You could walk between it.
Yes.
So there wasn't 30 feet, but
wasn't
it was
parked
closer
like
to
Chris
just a
Watts.
couple of feet to get behind.
I can't testify to that.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. exactly.
Okay, that's okay. So then approximately about 8:30, you saw the car exit and he drove over to Emma's place. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. Did he have any contact with law enforcement up until that time?
he had.
He had?
Yes.
Do you know who spoke with him?
I don't know everybody that spoke to him when they made contact inside the home originally.
So at some point, he was advised that they found remains on his property. When did that take place?
That didn't take place to my knowledge until he was stopped on a traffic stop.
Oh, okay. So and this is where I'm kind of confused. And please, educate me a little bit. So you said that Mr. Daybell was in Emma's house, his daughter's house, for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And while he was in the house, you didn't see him try to run away or flee or do anything like that, right?
Correct.
He didn't have any knowledge of anything going on out on his property other than there were multiple police officers out there, right?
I can't testify to that. I don't know what he could see from that home.
Well, as a patrol officer, you understand, and as a sergeant, you understand that when someone is stopped for a traffic ticket, there's a certain amount of anxiety with people when that happens to them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
And would you agree then that if there are 30 plus police officers showing up at your property and looking all over your property outside, not inside, but outside, would that tend to think that maybe you're a little curious about what's going on your property?
Maybe.
It could.
And that doesn't mean that you're guilty of anything. That doesn't mean you have any knowledge. What that means is you're curious about why are there 30 officers wandering around my property? Wouldn't you agree with that?
That could be the case.
Okay, thank you. So then when Mr. Daybell left Emma's house, it's your testimony that he sped off. Is that what your testimony was?
I believe it appeared that he was speeding.
It appeared he was speeding. Okay. So he doesn't have any knowledge about what's going on the property at that point, right?
No, I don't know that.
Okay.
I
He
know
doesn't, he hasn't been told by anybody from the law enforcement agency that that they found something on his property. Is that fair?
Not that I was aware of.
Okay. And then in your testimony, and maybe he wasn't speeding, maybe he was going fast. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So he wasn't racing off then, correct?
He accelerated quicker than,
Okay. And the speed limit on Salem Highway, and I've been on there a couple of times, is about 50 miles an hour. Starts slow, but when you get right on Salem Highway, it's a 50-mile-an-hour road.
Counsel's testifying.
Okay, I'll ask him, Judge Instant.
Hold on. Again, when there's an objection, I don't want an immediate argument back. I want a moment to rule, and that objection is overruled.
Okay.
So you can re-ask and the officer can answer if he knows, knowing he's a law enforcement officer in the area.
Do you have knowledge of what the speed limit is on Salem Highway in front of Mr. Daybell's house?
50 miles an hour.
Okay, so 50 miles an hour. So if you're pulling out of a driveway and Emma's where she used to live is right on Salem Highway, right?
Correct.
So it wouldn't be unusual for someone to pull into traffic and start accelerating into going down the road, right?
No.
Okay. Now,
This is all
I
he's
saw on the
got.
body cam. Did you have a chance to go look over your body cam?
Yes.
Okay, and when did you review that?
Couple days ago.
Okay, now I saw on the body cam, and if we have to, we'll play this for everybody to, if you have trouble remembering something, but I saw on the body cam where you pull up and Mr. Daybell stopped in a vehicle and you get out of the vehicle. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And then you walked up to, it looked like there were about 4 or 5 officers there, right?
I know that there were 2 unmarked surveillance officers that were there with me at that time.
Okay, but Officer Hermosillo was there.
He arrived shortly after.
Officer Ball was there.
Arrived shortly after.
And as soon as they arrived and you walked up, there was a discussion to Mr. Daybell about where he was going. Do you remember that?
I don't recall that.
Did you have a discussion that he was going to visit somebody that morning?
I did not.
Did he have a discussion about having a meeting with his lawyer that morning?
Not to my
Remember
knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So you have no recollection of the discussion of anyone at that point pointing out to Mr. Daybell that he can't go see his lawyer. The lawyer can come to him.
I do recall overhearing a statement about his lawyer.
Okay, so now you remember the statement about the lawyer. So gleaming from that statement, you were to understand that Mr. Daybell was in the process of going to see his lawyer, right?
No.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to ask to publish the body cam that's been previously admitted into evidence, and I'll see if I can get this to go.
And that'll be exhibit 63.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's a pretty dog coming through, I believe, with on the follow tape.
What do we got? Do we know what we have?
I don't know what they want. They said,
Yeah, go ahead and step out here for us.
This is his arrest.
They just asked us to stop you, so just come right here. We're gonna come and chat with you, okay? Just stand right here. You don't have anything on you? No weapons or nothing?
Okay, Chad, we were JJ. So we're going to detain for a minute. We'll figure out what we're going to do. Well, your attorney can now come to you.
Your attorney
Okay.
can now come.
So it's difficult to hear Mr. Daybell, but he commented to the officer when the officer inquired, what he was doing. Do you now recall that?
I couldn't hear what
Okay.
he said.
But the officer's response to Mr. Daybell was, now your lawyer can come to see you. Did you recognize that?
Yes.
Which officer, by the way, said that?
I believe that was Lieutenant Ball.
Okay, so Lieutenant Ball is the one who said,
He's nuts.
your officer can come to you now.
No, your lawyer.
Is that fair? Your
Attorney.
lawyer can come to you now.
Yes.
Okay. So it appears that Mr. Daybell was in the process of going to see his lawyer that morning.
I can't testify to that.
Right. But according to Lieutenant Ball's comment, your lawyer can come to you now. It sort of presumes that, doesn't it?
I could presume that he was trying to call or wanted to talk to his attorney first.
Okay, and he was doing that in his car as he was driving away, right?
I don't know that.
Or he was doing that driving down the road instead of spending another hour in his house with Emma, talking to his lawyer on the phone. He chose to instead, well, I'll just get in the car and.
Objection, Your Honor, it's calling for speculation.
Sustained.
Like a swamp creature.
And then after that point, you put Chad into handcuffs, right?
Yes.
Put him in the back of your car.
Yes.
And that was the video that we observed with Mr. Wixom, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you recall Mr. Daybell on the video that you looked at with Mr. Wixom, where Mr. Daybell mentions, I don't know what they're charging me with? Do you record him saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also record him, or also recall him, excuse me, saying to Emma, cooperate as much as you feel. Remember Emma saying that?
Yes.
Okay. At what point during that process was Mr. Daybell advised that they found a body on his property?
Right prior to this clip right here.
Okay. And at the point that he was having a discussion with his daughter, Emma, at that point, he didn't know what he was being charged with, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Nobody told him what he was being charged with, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
But it's a pretty serious allegation if you get put in a set of handcuffs and put behind a van, and then suddenly they say, we found a body on your property, right?
Could you repeat the question?
That's a pretty serious allegation.
Yes.
In your traffic experience, that's not something that happens every day, right?
Oh,
Right.
So at that point,
oh, he gets these fucking low blows in your traffic experience. That's not something you see every day, is it? What a dick.
Mr. Daybell is put in the back of the car, Chad's put in the back of the car, and Emma was allowed to talk with him, right?
Correct.
So we don't know what was going on in Mr. Daybell's mind, do we?
I don't.
Right. And we don't know what he's thinking, right?
Right.
But we do know that he's been told, guess what? They found a body on your property, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you're in handcuffs, right?
Correct.
And then Mr. Daybell says, we're going to make it through this, right?
Yes, sir.
And he's talking to his daughter about financial, where he can come up with money, credit cards, business accounts that he has, things like that, correct?
They were discussing those.
Right. So the purpose of discussing that, we don't know whether he was doing that to try to figure out a way if he could post bond on a release after he's being accused of this, right?
I don't know that.
You don't know that, right? We don't know what the reason for him trying to get his financials in order, right?
Right.
Now, I want to go back to the driveway. And originally, Chad was parked in a driveway from the south side. There's a driveway that comes in through the south, right?
Yeah, southeast of the residence.
Southeast of the residence. A long driveway that gets right into the middle of what I would call the backyard, the lawn area of the yard, right?
Correct.
Okay, now that's where he originally was parked, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that parked in that location gives you the best view of the fire pit and the pond?
I don't know about the pond because there was a shed there, but the fire pit.
Clearly the fire pit, right?
Correct. And
And you don't know about the pond because the pond is off back on a portion of the property set back a little further, right?
correct.
And it's a distance to see it, correct? That'd be fair, wouldn't it? Fair?
Distance is pretty relative. I guess.
Okay. Well, how far from where Mr. Daybell was parked to looking at the tree where they found JJ's remains?
I couldn't testify to an exact
Okay.
distance.
All right, fair enough. It's a distance though. This isn't his backyard, right?
You could see it easily,
Okay, you could see it easily from that location where he was.
distance wise, that amount of distance.
Okay, but the remains of both of these children were found in the pasture area, right?
Yes.
So if we say what I'm talking about, the backyard, would you agree with me that the backyard is where this driveway is and where the lawn is? That would be really the backyard. Would you agree with that?
That's landscaped as grass. Yes.
Right, okay, and then beyond a fence is the fire pit, and then further down off in the far, which would be the northeast corner, is a tree with a pond back some ways away from the house, right?
To the north of the fire pit.
Right. So this is what I'm struggling with. This is where I'm having some difficulty. If you have such a good view of the fire pit and the pond with the tree where JJ was found, if your purpose is to observe and see what's going on for some nefarious reason, why would he move?
I believe he was advised to, so they could get crime scene stuff in and out of that driveway.
Okay, so he was told he had to get out of there.
I believe so.
Okay, do you know who told him that?
I don't.
Okay, so then he drives out and goes in front of the house in the driveway.
Correct.
There's no other place to go. He has to go in the driveway, right?
If he wants to remain at the house, yes.
Right. And it's your testimony that he was looking around a little bit at that point, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, you know, he wasn't emotional at that point, right?
I didn't have a good vantage point to
Okay.
determine that.
He didn't have a look of fear on his face at that point. Is that right?
Not that I could see.
Okay. He didn't have a look of nervousness or tension or anything like that, did he?
I believe that he did
You believe he did?
Yes.
Are you basing that on him turning his head and looking around?
multiple times.
Okay, how many times is multiple?
There was 4 or 5, and then him exiting the vehicle.
Okay, okay. So if someone is on your property and there are 30 police officers digging around on your property,
Are you not going to look?
you don't think someone would be curious about what's going on your property?
That's why I said that I believe he was nervous.
Okay, he was curious.
It could be both, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. But then he didn't run at that point, right?
No.
He went over to his daughter's, right?
Correct.
And he was there for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, right?
Correct.
And then we just saw the video. He got accelerated a little bit, 50 miles an hour in Salem Highway. And when he stopped, he was planning on going to see his lawyer, right?
I don't know that.
Okay. Well, why would Lieutenant Ball say he's going to have to come to you? Was it
Also speculation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Lieutenant Ball said to him, your lawyer's going to have to come to you, right?
Something along those lines, yes.
So there was at least a discussion about going to see the lawyer, right?
I don't know that.
Okay. You just think that was a statement Lieutenant Ball would just throw out there?
Judge, this has been asked and answered. It's pure speculation. The witness doesn't know.
I'll move on, Judge.
Well, again, I'd like to be allowed a chance to rule on that, and it is sustained as asked and answered. So do move on, Mr. Pryor.
The judge
Now,
laughs.
after you put Chad in the back of the car and what we talked about with Emma, talking about the finances, and there was a time when Emma made a comment
Hi, Evelyn.
that I can tell by your expression that you didn't know what was going on out there, something to that effect. You remember hearing that?
Yes.
Okay, and you saw Chad's eyes when they talked about the body and his expression. So he had a reaction to that surprise. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't see that.
Okay, but obviously we have the video and we can make our own determination at some point, right?
Sure.
What the reaction was when he's told about a body that was being found. Okay. So then
Let's
subsequent
see
to that
it.
time,
I'd
after
love to
Emma
see his
left,
reaction.
if you look at the outside camera of the premises, Chad, at one point, you talked about this, looked back, right? And you said that was towards the fire pit, right?
There were multiple times that he looked back towards that area, yes.
But if he was looking back, if you look at the position of the car, isn't it true that he was actually looking back at his daughter walking away and Officer Dave Hope behind the vehicle?
I don't know.
Does it
You don't know what he was looking
No,
at.
I don't know where Emma was at. She lives in front of the vehicle, so I don't know why she would be behind it.
Okay, and then the video speaks for itself, though, as to what exactly Chad was looking at, right?
It shows what direction he was looking at.
Okay, on the outside body, the outside cam of your vehicle, right?
In the front, I don't know what outside cam you're talking
The
about.
camera that was recording the encounter from the outside of your vehicle.
My body cam,
No, there were two cameras there.
front car camera.
Front car camera, and then there was the one inside the car as well, right?
Correct.
Okay. But the cameras will speak to themselves as to where Chad was looking, right?
Looking beyond.
Yes.
Okay. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be mistaken, but I thought you previously testified that by looking straight out the window, the way Chad's vehicle was positioned, that looking straight out the driver's or the passenger side window or the window he was in would be right directly at the fire pit. Isn't that what you testified to?
His residence.
Okay. So you're telling me that by looking behind or back, he's looking away from his residence. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So again, what time did you drop Chad off at the jail?
I believe it was approximately 12:45.
What time did his chin arrive?
Okay. And I just need to clarify something else. Have you been on that property before?
Prior to that day?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. But you saw cadaver dogs there on that day?
Yes.
Okay. And again, what time did you get back from after you dropped Chad off?
Sick.
Back to the residence approximately 13:30, 1:30.
And for those of us who aren't in the military,
Sorry,
that'd be 1:30, right?
approximately 1:30 p.m. Yeah.
Okay. I can do that math, I think. And then you were there until what time at night?
I don't recall the exact time until we decided to
Okay.
convene till the next day.
And your primary goal at that point was excavation, is that right?
After I had returned, they reassigned me to help with the property.
Okay, and what role specifically? Were you at the fire pit or were
Oh,
you
yeah.
at the tree back behind the pasture there?
Primarily the fire pit area.
Okay, and do you recall who was with you at the fire pit?
There were multiple people.
When you say multiple, how many are we talking about?
I don't even want to estimate.
That many?
There was people coming and going.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't recall who was there and when.
And they were handing off the shovels and the tools used to do that?
Not necessarily handing them off, maybe expanding
Thank you,
areas
Buddha.
to look at and sift through.
And at one time, how many people would you say were digging around the fire pit with you?
I don't want to testify to that. I don't know.
You don't want to testify or you
I don't know. I don't know for sure how many.
Was it more than 2?
Yes.
Was it more than 4?
Yes.
Was it more than 8?
No, I don't know.
Okay, and were you using just shovels?
No, they had sifters, hand tools, shovels.
So shovels, sifters, hand tools, anything else, or is that it?
Not that I can recall.
Other than digging in the dirt in the fire pit, was there any other obstruction in the fire pit that you recall having difficulty with?
Repeat that question.
Any difficulty in digging in the soil when you were at the fire pit?
Where we found Tylee's remains.
Yes, where Tylee's remains were found.
Just how careful we wanted to be.
Okay. So there were no boards, there were no obstructions, there were no rocks or anything like that. It was soil that you had to dig through. Is that fair?
There were some clumps of rock or hard.
Yeah, but nothing else, just small clumps?
Not that I recall.
Okay, and were you there primarily for a significant amount of the time of the excavation?
Yes.
Okay, good. And Judge, I think that's looking curiously. Do you remember that question?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be the prosecution coming back and redirect. Okay, this is redirect from the prosecutor on the same witness.
Would you say that another reason why someone might be curious about all these law enforcement digging on your property could be that you were aware they're about to find bodies that you knew were buried on your property? Could that cause curiosity?
Yes.
Who is this guy?
Mr. Pryor, ask you a question about the speed in the roadway in front of Mr. Daybell's property. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And again, what was the speed on that road?
50 miles an hour.
And I think you testified that it may not be abnormal for someone living on that street to drive out into the street and then quickly accelerate to 50 miles an hour or more.
Correct.
Yeah. Would you disagree that someone who believed that bodies that were buried on his property might be a reason, in addition to that, why they might quickly get on the roadway and drive away quickly and accelerate like you've talked about?
Yes.
There's been some discussion as well. There's some questions from Mr. Pryor about the fire pit. And I just want to flesh that out a bit. You testified earlier that you were present when Tylee's remains were recovered.
Yes.
And you participated in that.
Yes.
We've talked about the fire pit. Are you familiar with what's been called a pet cemetery on that property?
Yes.
Overruled.
Can you explain to the jury, were any of Tylee's remains found in the pet cemetery?
So when I became involved, I don't know what the team had designated as cemetery and fire pit. So I can't testify to where exactly they had designated those points, but they were in that area that I assisted.
Did you become familiar with at least generally where the team was, what they were calling was the pet cemetery?
Sustained.
Did you receive any knowledge based upon what the team effort was, what had been designated by law enforcement there as what they were going to call the pet cemetery?
Mr. Rickson.
Because I'm asking based on his knowledge simply if he knew what law enforcement designated as that area.
Mr. Pryor, please enter the microphone.
And in response to that, that knowledge would only be obtained through hearsay. You knew my objection, Your Honor.
What would be the exception, Mr. Wixom?
Judge, I'm not offering to prove it for the truth of the matter as to where the pet cemetery was. I'm simply asking this witness if he knew that area, generally speaking, as they were conducting their investigation for the remains, the area that they were calling that. That's all.
Judge, and it's absolutely being asked for the truth of the matter asserted. That's exactly why he's asking it.
The objection's overruled. I find it as an exception to the hearsay rule, and the officer can answer the question.
I was familiar with the area called the pet cemetery.
And where was the pet cemetery in relation to the fire pit?
It was to the west and to the side a little bit, not very far away.
So in your earlier testimony, when you talked about the direction that Mr. Daybell was looking in the back of your patrol car, do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
And I think you testified you used the term fire pit.
Yes.
Can I just be clear for the jury? Was the pet cemetery in the same general direction as the fire pit where Mr. Daybell was looking?
Yes.
You were asked some questions about the use of shovels and tools in attempting to recover Tylee's remains.
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit more to the jury what kind of cautions and efforts were made to uncover those remains?
The majority of what I did, I was on my hands and knees with brushes and little hand tools, removing portions of dirt away from the mass that we had found.
Without being too graphic, when you were removing those portions of dirt, did you personally find any portion of her remains?
Yes.
Can you describe those remains that you'd found?
Judge, I'm going to object.
Basis?
He doesn't have the knowledge to identify remains, Judge. I haven't heard anything foundation-wise to allow him to make that kind of an assessment.
Well, on the objection, Mr. Wixom, he can testify to what he found. I don't know that there's enough foundation to accurately identify who was found.
Yeah. Detective Wheeler, did you find what you believe to be human remains?
Yes.
Can you be specific about what you were finding?
We'd found a portion of a skull and started to uncover that. Then there was flesh and other bones
Oof.
in a bucket, melted.
Christ almighty. That's terrible.
And at the time that the search was being conducted,
Pryor's like,
were you aware of the names of the people whose remains they were looking for?
Yes.
What were those names?
JJ and Tylee.
At any point in time, besides the remains of Tylee and the remains of JJ, were any other human remains found on the property?
No.
So going back to the method and the manner that you used to recover these remains, you said, I think you said, you used a brush at points.
Brushes and hand tools.
Why did you use those specific types of tools?
To try to keep what we were uncovering together without falling apart.
Not to be oversimplistic, but why is that important in this kind of a recovery in the ground of remains? Why do you need to do that?
I think it assists in identification purposes and evidence collecting so we don't lose anything.
Is it fair to say that that's a careful process?
Yes.
You were asked questions about passing off shovels or different shovels and tools. When you were engaged in this recovery of her remains and you observed other law enforcement, did you ever see anybody in any way haphazardly use those tools?
Judge, objection, mischaracterizing the question and the testimony.
Overruled.
I didn't see anybody using them. I don't know the word that you used. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Did you see anybody using them in any way that was haphazard or not cautious?
No.
So at no point when the remains were being recovered, did you see any conduct by law enforcement that wasn't conscientious and careful?
No.
I think you're a 17-year law enforcement veteran. Is that correct?
18.
18. Thank you.
And
Are you
Pryor
familiar with the
talked about
term
him being
consciousness of guilt?
traffic.
Yes.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. We're going well beyond the scope of cross-examination.
I'd like a quick sidebar.
Oh my gosh. All right, we're going to speed this up. Look at Chad while they're on sidebar. He's so freaking awkward. He touches the laptop. He's like, come on, get back over here. I can't stand all these eyes on me. Oh, thank God. They're back. Chad Bluebell.
All right, thank you, counsel. After the sidebar, the court is sustaining the objection, and I'll move to strike that last question. So, Mr. Wixom, if you could ask a different question, please.
Thank you. Detective Wheeler, if someone gets in a car and flees quickly or appears to, what can that be indicative of?
Judge, calls for speculation.
Oh, did you? Chad had a
Overruled.
Chad had a reaction. First reaction I've seen of him. Hold the phone. He actually had a reaction. Look at these numbskulls. Karchi, watch this one.
What can that be indicative of?
Judge, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Oh, he's so
Could be that they have knowledge that something is going to be found or some sort of guilt.
Would that go back to that term, consciousness of guilt?
Judge, can we approach? Sidebar, please.
This is actually sped up a little bit too when I recorded it, so he is so, look at how he moved his laptop again. He tries to be busy.
All right, after sidebar, the court is again striking that last question. Mr. Wixom, if you'd move on to another question, please.
Certainly. Just a last couple of questions.
He side eyes a lot too.
Can you explain again
Such a
the
jerk.
timing of when Mr. Daybell had left the property and as to when you'd found out that JJ's remains had been found?
Later, I had discovered that it was simultaneously, meaning as Chad was leaving, detectives were coming around the house and saw him leaving and advised me to stop him.
Judge, I'm going to move to strike its hearsay.
Response, Mr. Wixom.
You know, I can re-ask the question.
Very well.
Yeah. When you had stopped Mr. Daybell and had him get out of the car and come back to the back, you indicated that that's when he was met by the 4 or 5 officers, including Lieutenant Ball. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
And we just saw the video where the first thing Lieutenant Ball said was, "We found JJ's remains."
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
That happened how long after Mr. Daybell had gotten his car and drove away?
Just prior.
Moments,
Hey, Nanya?
seconds, what's your best recollection?
I wasn't back there, so I don't know the exact time they located him, but
I'm asking the statement from Lieutenant Ball to Chad.
Right.
That timing, how long was that statement made to him? How much earlier had he driven away?
oh, just within minutes.
And when you were there helping with Eileen's remains, I think you testified earlier that you weren't directly involved with the recovery of JJ's remains,
Correct.
but you were on scene and you made observations about that.
Yes.
Are you aware of whether or not, pursuant to that search warrant or the way the search was conducted, was law enforcement looking inside the house for remains?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I can't testify to that.
The whole time were you there, did you see any law enforcement going inside the house?
Just at the beginning when they made contact.
And then after that, did they all go outside?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as you are aware, all of the search was happening outside on the property.
Yes.
Is there any question that you have as to the direction that Chad was looking on your patrol cam when he looks back over his right shoulder? What direction was he looking?
Judge, that's a compound question. And he's asking an affirmation from this witness. I'm going to object.
On the compound, it's sustained.
What direction was Chad looking when he was looking over his right shoulder in the patrol cam?
In the direction of the fire pit and pet cemetery.
You were asked about this several times by Mr. Pryor. Is there any question that, regardless of what else he may have been able to see or look at, that general direction was right at the pet cemetery?
Judge, this has been asked and answered by counsel.
Sustained.
Thank
It's
you.
asked and answered.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Judge, there were some issues that were brought up. I'd like the opportunity.
In limited scope, all out, Mr.
Thank you,
Pryor.
Your Honor.
He gets one more go at it. Yeah. We're almost done with AM of yesterday.
Now, officer, I heard an interesting comment from you. As you were testifying, you made a comment that I subsequently learned. Did you talk to anybody about your testimony at the break in this case?
No,
You didn't talk to any other law enforcement?
no.
So when you said that you subsequently learned, when did that knowledge come to you?
What are you referencing?
I'm referencing the fact that you subsequently, now I forgot what the context of that was. We're going to move on, Judge.
He pulled me. He totally pulled me. Look at Chad's face. He totally forgot. He pulled a freaking J on his limited scope recross. Hi, Pink Banjo. Hey, Meg.
Now, officer, I heard an interesting comment from you. As you were testifying, you made a comment that I subsequently learned. Did you talk to anybody about your testimony at the break in this case?
No,
You didn't talk to any other law enforcement?
no.
So when you said that you subsequently learned, when did that knowledge come to you?
What are you referencing?
I'm referencing the fact that you subsequently, now I forgot what the context of that was. We're going to move on, Judge. And it may come to me. I want to clarify a couple of things. When you say that Mr. Daybell left when he learned about finding remains on his property, was that when he was parked in the driveway?
In his residence?
Yeah.
When he left Emma's residence in his vehicle, shortly after I learned that JJ's body was found.
Okay, so and that's what I'm trying to clarify a little bit. So Mr. Daybell was parked in the driveway, then he went over to Emma's residence, and it's unclear, and I understand that we don't know whether he was there for an hour and a half or for 2 hours in Emma's residence, right?
Yes,
And at that point, he didn't know anything about anything being on the property that has been located by law enforcement at that point. Would you agree with that?
I don't know what he could see from there.
Okay, but he wasn't told by anybody that they found anything at that point, correct?
Not by me,
Right, or anybody else.
not that I know of.
Right. And then when he gets in his vehicle and he drives away, the prosecutor eloquently used the words fleeing, but we don't know what he was thinking at that point, do we?
No,
And only after he was stopped by you and those other several officers and notified what was going on, that's when he learned about it, after he drove away and after he had driven down the road, correct?
I can't testify to what he knew.
Okay, but he was told about the remains at that point. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
All right, I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, that will conclude.
Okay, so that concludes. Thank you for starting that out, Judge Boyce. That concludes part 1, which is Daybell AM of day 3, which was yesterday. So now we're going to roll into PM of yesterday. Hope you're enjoying the stream and getting something out of this trial, because it's a lot. And when you take away all the garbage, you actually do pick up a lot of things that we did not pick up or did not hear in the first one. Not pick up, but it's never been testified to. So here we go. They're back from lunch, and so are we. Let's go.
Can I recross in the event that he brought up some things about Mr. Vallow that I would like to be able to touch on a little bit?
Very limited in scope.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Pryor, I'll allow on that.
I think this is a repeat. Hold on.
With all the association and all the deaths around it.
Okay. Here comes our next witness. This is an investigator. Y'all, all I can say to this is welcome to Idaho. I'll leave it there. Hello, Shamrock.
Officer, you made an interesting comment about Chad Daybell and Alex Cox. Are you aware that Chad Daybell is not implicated in the murder of Charles Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. Not involved, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right. And in the shooting and attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux, same thing. Alex Cox, Lori Vallow are implicated in that crime, right?
Yes.
And Chad Daybell is not implicated in that crime. Is that right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So this other knowledge that Mr. Wixom spoke to you about, this knowledge that somehow Chad, he must have known these people. So because he knew those people and he's not implicated in those other murder and attempted murder by Alex Cox, Chad's not implicated. How does that give you a right to dig up Tammy Daybell?
With all the association and all the deaths around it.
Oh, so because she went to Hobby Lobby with him, because she went to a restaurant, And because you surveilled them, and obviously they were having a relationship, right?
Yes,
And that's the other information you used to dig her out of the ground, right?
yes,
That's the other information you used to dig her out of the ground, right?
yes.
Judge, I have nothing else.
All right, that'll conclude the recross then.
Wait, I'm
and
confused.
Not having any more redirect, so is it correct from the state then that this witness is likely to be recalled?
Hold on. I'm confused.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I restarted it. Let's see where we are. Hold on. I'm sorry. Same witness.
The exhibit.
Well, it's actually an admitted exhibit, so
Well, if he's got permission to read it, then we'll continue on.
you can ask your question, but once
I'm sorry. I'm a little confused right now. Hold on. Day 3 and day 4's video.
At this time, I'd like to hand up to the court, after defense counsel reviews it, a copy of the report from Deputy Allison Greenhall.
I think I skipped that guy because his voice. I think I might have. Let me see. 604. Let me see.
can you speak into the microphone, please?
I've been warned about this, Judge.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know. I think I skipped that guy because his voice, and I thought I can't do it. I don't know.
Jury, what were some of the reasons that caused you to have concern to reopen the Tammy Daybell death investigation?
Chad tells Deputy Greenhall that Tamara didn't have any serious.
This is about Tammy's health. Tammy's health. So the Daybell kids are
Thank you, Your Honor,
expected
and to be clear,
testify that their mom used oils and natural remedies versus going to the doctor, and that she was very unhealthy.
Counsel, this is the stipulated exhibit 70 that was stipulated to. It's the report.
Exhibit what, counsel?
70. Well, it's the stipulation number 70. It's that report.
Mr. Wixom, has that been admitted formally in the trial yet?
I intend to, but I haven't yet. I can stop now and do so.
I guess that'll make the most sense since we've referenced the exhibit. I want to make sure it comes in before it's referred to.
Certainly, Your Honor. Thank you. May I have just a second, please?
You may.
And Judge, that would have saved an objection if I had known.
I understand.
Jeepers.
At this time, I'd like to hand up to the court, after defense counsel reviews it, a copy of the report from Deputy Allison Greenhall.
And it's reference 70. Is that the actual exhibit number for?
Judge, that's the itemized number on the stipulation, as I recall. The state's proposed exhibit number is 418.
418?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you please mark the exhibit then as 418 that you propose to offer?
Certainly, Your Honor.
This is Officer Powell's report, not Officer Greenhall's report. That's what he meant to give me. So, you.
Oh, I know. And doing clogging with her daughter and stuff. It's ridiculous. I think he was poisoning her like they did Alex. I think that's why she wasn't feeling good. I got it sped up. I'm going to slow it down when they start talking again. So this is yesterday afternoon's proceedings.
All right. The state's proposed exhibit 418. It apparently is not referenced in the stipulated exhibit list, but is there any objection to the introduction of state's exhibit 418?
No, Judge.
All right. Exhibit 418 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I ask to have that handed to the witness, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant Powell, you were telling the jury what were some of the reasons that caused you to have concern to reopen the Tammy Daybell death investigation?
Chad tells Deputy Greenhall that Tamara didn't have any serious medical conditions.
Let me stop you there. If you're going to refer to the exhibit to refresh a recollection, I'm going to ask the court permission to allow you to do so, but you probably shouldn't read from that.
Oh,
is that, Your Honor, may he have permission to refresh from the exhibit?
Well, it's actually an admitted exhibit, so.
Well, if he's got permission to read it, then we'll continue on.
You can ask your question, but once it's an admitted exhibit, the jury will have that.
Right. Thank you. So go ahead then, Lieutenant Powell.
He tells Deputy Greenhall that Tamara don't have any serious medical conditions and that she don't go to the doctor often.
Anything else in there that caused you to decide to investigate further?
Last time she was at the doctor was 2 months ago for an arm injury.
Okay. So upon reviewing that, considering the other information, what steps did you take to then investigate Tammy's death?
Ran a controlled substance, it's called PMP, prescription monitoring program, where you can run a name and they'll tell you if they're on any controlled substance medications that are controlled.
Is that a law enforcement program?
Yes.
Okay. What did you find from that?
She was prescribed tramadol.
Okay. Anything else from that report?
Not from that report, no.
So what did you do next?
Got with the prosecutor and got a search warrant for Walmart pharmacy.
Why Walmart pharmacy?
That's where it was prescribed to, picked up.
What did you find as a result of the search warrant from Walmart pharmacy?
She was prescribed fluoxetine and tramadol.
And what did you do next?
So she was on
She was
Prozac.
prescribed fluoxetine from Seasons Medical and tramadol from Teton Medical. So I got search warrants for those two medical records.
Did you get records from both those entities?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I don't think it's about whether they like them or not. It's all business, right? This is all business.
You know, at this time, the state would offer its proposed Exhibit 38 that likewise was stipulated to for admission, which for the record are the records of Teton Medical.
And Judge, for the record, my exhibit number 21 should mirror their exhibit number 38. If there is any differences, I'll move for mine as well. But my 21 was stipulated as well as their 38. So there is duplication there.
Okay, and to the extent it's the same exhibit, let's make sure it just gets admitted once, but what's now marked and offered as states 38, I'll have the defense review that and ask if there's any objection.
Again, this is yesterday, day 3 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you.
As to propose 38, any objection from the defense?
No, Judge.
All right. Exhibit 38 has been offered and is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I have permission to publish Exhibit 38?
Exhibity.
You may, the copy I've got, counsel, is essentially illegible on the second page.
Judge, if I could suggest,
Third page, I would say. It's actually 3 pages.
Judge, if I could suggest my 21, you might find that to be a little more legible. But counsel, if you would like to take a look.
Let me sidebar with counsel, because there's a photocopy so light that it's the court will permit how it was photocopied, but there is a better version of it that was likewise submitted by the defense. So upon suggestion in the sidebar, the court will permit a substitute exhibit. So what was previously admitted 38 will not be admitted, and we'll have that referenced by the defense exhibit, which is the same document in a more legible copy. So what is the exhibit number, Mr. Pryor, that would replace our exhibit 38?
Your Honor, Teton Medical Group records would be defense exhibit number 21. And Seasons Medical Records, which I think counsel's moving towards, it will be exhibit number 22. And my understanding, Judge, is that we previously agreed that exhibit number 20 by stipulation is submitted as well, and I'll move for all 3 of those at this point.
Okay, the defense has moved then for those exhibits 21, 22, and 20. Mr. Wixom, any objection from the state?
No, we have no objection, Your Honor. We agree to the same exhibits, just with a more clear copy, yes.
Okay, then those will be admitted, and to be clear then for the record, exhibit 38 is no longer admitted as part of the record, being substituted by the more clear version. So you can proceed, Mr. Wixom. Just reference the exhibit number with those new defense numbers when you are referencing them with the witness, please.
Will be, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right, may I have permission to publish exhibit number 21?
Yes.
Here we go. We got some.
Lieutenant Powell, what is it that you see on the screen?
The medical records from Teton Medical Group.
And can we explain to the jury, in your role as a lieutenant in terms of helping subordinates deal with unattended deaths, is it typical for you to get medical records and look at them?
Yes.
And you're by no means a doctor, correct?
No.
But you do review them to see if you can discern anything about the subject's health?
Yes.
Okay. What did you see in this Teton medical record about Tammy Daybell's health?
The past medical history was just anxiety, depression, and anemia. Other than that, everything appeared to be normal.
Okay. So when you sought a warrant for these particular records, how many years time span did you ask for?
2 years.
Was this the only record that was returned?
Yes.
What's the date on that record?
9/6 of 2019.
Does that indicate anything to you about Tammy's health status?
She was healthy at the time that she was at that doctor.
What about the fact that this is the only record? Does that tell you anything about her health status?
It appears she's healthy.
Your Honor, may I now have permission to publish the exhibit number 22?
Yes.
And please just refresh for the jury, who was the second provider that you sought records from under the warrant?
Seasons Medical.
And I want to call your attention to the screen again. What is that you see?
The medical records for Tammy from Seasons Medical.
And in fact, when you sought these records pursuant to a warrant, what time span did you look for?
2 years.
And were there any other records besides this?
No, there was not.
What's the date on this record?
10/6 of 2015.
What, if anything, did you discern from these records?
He was being seen for depression.
Anything else?
No.
What did that do to, how did that impact your decision how to go further to investigate in any way?
Yes.
What way did it impact?
She appeared to be healthy, so I got with the prosecutors and got a warrant for exhumation.
Okay. Can you explain what the exhumation process is to the jury, please?
She was buried in Springfield, Utah, so had to get with court in Utah, got a warrant to exhume her, and that dig her up and take her to have an autopsy done.
And that order was issued?
Yes, it was.
And did you attend that exhumation process?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may we approach it this time?
Yes.
Another sidebar. I think I sped this one up. I'm not sure. I did.
E7A through AHL individually are each admitted. And Mr. Wixom, you can continue.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I have permission to publish various parts of this exhibit?
Yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant Powell, I think we had left off with you explaining why you were going to do the exhumation. Could you please explain to the jury what's that process as far as law enforcement is concerned?
Go and observe and make sure that nothing was tampered with.
And what kinds of things do you look for tampering?
Any marks on the casket, and the cement vault and things like that.
And why do you look for tampering?
To make sure I can say that nothing was tampered with and to obscure the autopsy.
So is it safe to say that you were at the graveside when her body was literally pulled from the ground, or her casket was pulled from the ground?
Yes.
And you observed all that?
Yes.
Now, did you personally take photos of that process?
No.
But you were present the whole time?
Yes.
And you've seen the photos that were taken?
Yes.
And they've been admitted, but the photos, you'll be able to say if they were accurate depictions of what was happening?
Yes.
Now, if I may now publish?
Yes.
Oh, yikes.
Lieutenant, can you please just explain to the jury, what are we looking at?
The backhoe getting ready to start digging the grave out.
Okay. And this is Ms. Daybell's grave?
Yes.
And where is this again?
Springfield, Utah.
Now I call your attention to what's been marked as 37B. What's that?
The backhoe digging the grave.
37C.
Them lifting the cement vault out of the grave.
For God's
37D?
sakes.
The cement vault.
37E.
The lid taking off the cement vault and the casket.
The flower is
37F.
still on it, guys.
The inside of the cement vault.
And I'll stop there. In the course of your observation of this part of the exhumation, did you see any tampering?
No.
What did you look at?
The edges, and then you're seeing all the roses and stuff still on top of the casket.
Did you examine the casket as well?
Yes.
Did you see any indication of tampering there?
No.
And then once the coffin was removed from the vault, what happened with the coffin?
It was loaded and taken to the medical examiner's office in Utah.
And this 37, G, is that a picture of the loading of the coffin?
Yes.
Now, you said that coffin was taken to an ME, to a medical examiner?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ride in the hearse at that time?
No, I followed it.
Did the hearse and the coffin stay within your line of sight all the way to the MEs?
Yes.
And in fact, did you go inside when they put the casket in?
Yes.
Did you observe the autopsy?
Yes.
And so therefore, did you also observe the removal of Tammy's body from the casket?
Yes.
Holy.
And what do we see here, Lieutenant?
Tammy Daybell's body.
Okay. Did you, at that point in time, look for potential tampering?
Yes.
Did you observe anything?
No.
And was Tammy's clothing eventually removed from her?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to view her body before the autopsy began?
Yes.
And did you see any signs of tampering at all?
No.
Lieutenant, once the exhumation was completed, did you do anything personally that furthered the investigation?
I assisted with the search warrant on January 3rd.
And what search warrant was that?
202 North 1900 East at the Daybell residence.
And, excuse me, what was the purpose of that warrant?
They was looking for electronics and other things in regards to Tammy's.
And your role in that search?
I was there helping search, and when something was found, the FBI ERT team would come photograph it and process it.
And then how were you involved at that point?
After we was all done and the FBI had processed everything, they turned it over to myself and Detective Mattingly. We loaded them in our vehicles and transported it to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office.
Was that the end of your involvement?
Yes.
At some point, was this further investigation of Tammy's death turned over to someone else in the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, the detectives.
And why was that?
Just I had other things they wanted me to be doing and wanted it turned over to the detectives.
And to be clear, as a lieutenant, how many subordinates do you supervise?
Approximately 24. Oh, no, it'd be probably about 27.
And would that include patrol officers as well as detectives?
Yes.
Okay. Is that part of the reason why you as a lieutenant would then just assign the case to a detective?
Yes.
From that point forward, did you have any other involvement in Tammy's death investigation?
No.
You know, I may have just a moment, please.
Yes.
You know, at this time, I don't have any further questions for direct. I did want to inquire if the two exhibits that I had been turned back into the court. I see the marshal shaking his head yes.
Yes, we do have those.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Pryor, you can
Judge,
cross.
thank you.
Once you're set up, Mr. Pryor, in order to maybe make things a little more efficient with your
Cross-examination.
proposed exhibits, I'd like a brief sidebar with counsel before you start cross, just to discuss exhibits you've mentioned.
Okay, Judge.
So this is going to be Pryor's cross-examination about Tammy being exhumed. They're doing their sidebar. There's Shifty Chad again. He goes, I'm not sure, Helen. I think they did the same thing to Alex, though, because Chad gave Alex a blessing and he died the next day. Or like a couple days later. And this was after Alex told Zulema, his wife, that he felt Chad and Lori were going to make him the fall guy. Then he died within a week. After Chad's blessing.
For the sidebar on that, also, just,
Officer, you spent 22 years with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. Is that right?
which I think is a death certificate, and we need to get that to the bailiff for entry into the court record. All right, thanks, counsel. And you can commence with your cross-examination, then, Mr. Pryor.
So Officer, you've spent 22 years with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pryor, but can you speak into the microphone, please?
I've been warned about this, Judge. Sorry.
Thank you, reporter room.
You spent 22 years with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. Is that right?
Yes.
And the last 4.5 years have been as a detective. Is that correct?
I'm a lieutenant now.
I'm sorry, lieutenant. 4.5 years as a lieutenant.
No, about 7 years lieutenant. I was 4.5 years detective.
Okay, that's what I thought I said. And then 7 years as a lieutenant.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't get on the street and do patrol or anything like that. Is that right?
I do cover shifts, yes.
Okay. And are you equipped with a camera in your automobile?
No.
Are you equipped with a body cam?
No.
That's not standard issue for you folks?
Not for me. I do not have one, no.
Are there occasions when you feel that you need to have a body cam or a recorder?
Yeah, there's possibly some, yeah.
Okay. And would one of those be when you're interviewing witnesses or taking statements from people?
Yes.
And the purpose of that is to make sure that you get the statement accurately. Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
But there's also an aspect of that when you have a recorder or a body cam, there's no likelihood that what someone says to you could be misinterpreted. Would you agree with that?
Will you repeat that one more time?
Well, if you have a body cam or a recorder and you're interviewing someone about an important topic, well, like this case, when you interview witnesses, you want to get the facts right from what they said, correct?
Yes.
And it's important that you get the facts right when they tell you things, right?
Yes.
And it's also important that it's a tool that you use to ensure that everybody's playing on the same page. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's generally a very good idea to use a recorder or a body cam when you're dealing with subjects or people that were there serious consequences, correct?
Yes,
And in this particular case, this is a serious case, right?
yes,
You've never been involved in as much of a serious case as you've been in this case, correct?
no,
Most serious case you've been involved in 22 years, right?
yes,
So I would assume you took precautions that when you interviewed witnesses, you took the necessary step to make sure that you had a recorder with you. Is that right?
yeah, try to, yes.
Okay, try to. Okay. Now you received a call from the Gilbert Police Department, right? About this case with Tammy Daybell, correct?
Yes,
And I read your report, and I think you accurately reflected what they were talking to you about. Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were involved in an attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. Is that right?
yes,
And Chad Daybell was not implicated in that, correct?
no,
Right. But he was someone of interest because he had been hanging around Lori Vallow,
he was a known associate.
known associate. But there was no implication that he had any involvement in the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux, right?
No,
That was Alex Cox and that was Lori Vallow. And when did that shooting take place?
I don't recall a date.
What year?
Would have been 2019.
Okay. Okay. You don't recall the month, right?
I received the call in October.
Okay. So at this point, your investigation was centered around the fact that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox knew Chad Daybell somehow, right?
Yes,
And as part of your surveillance, you were able to establish that in November, right?
November 1st.
Okay, of 2019. At that point, you were able to establish that there was some sort of a relationship between Lori and Chad, right?
Yes,
And that was after Tammy's death, right?
yes,
So really, if two people who are not married are going to a Hobby Lobby to pick up whatever they're picking up, that's not really suspicious, is it?
it depends, I guess.
Oh.
It ain't suspicious, no.
Well, you said depends. I want to know what's suspicious about two people who are single going to a Hobby Lobby. Why don't you tell me what that is?
Well, it ain't suspicious, no.
Okay. And then going out to eat at a restaurant. There's nothing suspicious about two people who are single going to a restaurant to have something to eat. Is that right?
Right.
And there's nothing suspicious about Lori Vallow going over to Chad's house and being there for a short period of time. There's nothing suspicious about that, right?
No.
Okay. So I'm having some difficulty here. And the difficulty I'm having is that you get a call from the Gilbert police suggesting that Chad Daybell knows Alex and Lori, right?
Yes,
And based on the fact that they know them, you get an order from a judge to dig up Tammy Daybell, right?
with the medical records and everything, yes.
Okay. With the medical records and what's the everything?
Chad saying that she had no medical issues.
Okay. All right. Judge, could I have exhibit number 21, please?
Yes.
Look at Chad. He's loving this.
And
back
please bear
forth.
with me, Judge. I'm sorry. It might take me 2 seconds to get this brought up.
That's fine. And before it comes up or is published, make sure, number one, we know what it is. And number two, it's admitted.
Yeah.
Hey, Miss K.
And officer, it's previously been admitted, Teton medical records. That's the medical records you subpoenaed, correct?
Yes.
All right. And 21 is already admitted. So,
It is, Judge. And I'm going to go through 20, 21, and 22.
all right. Thanks for clarifying. Those are all admitted. So you can publish without permission, Mr. Pryor, if you'd like.
So I'm at the top of Teton medical record. And what I'm looking at on the left-hand side of the letter where it says past medical history, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the first thing at the very top is anemia, right?
Yes.
Did you research what anemia is?
No, I did not.
Did you research what the medical conditions and what people experience as a result of being diagnosed with anemia?
No, I did not.
Did you research and look into the fact that anemia can have life-threatening consequences?
Sorry, Judge, the counsel is testifying.
Well, it's cross-examination. I don't know what that objection is, Mr. Wicham. What's the basis?
Judge, he's describing how serious anemia is, and This witness has never spoken to that issue. So counsel is trying to testify as to how serious anemia is. It's a medical condition. This witness was freely admitting that he's.
I don't want a speaking objection. I'll sustain the objection on assumes facts not in evidence.
Okay. And let's move down the list. The next one is anxiety, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the one down below that is depression, right?
Yes.
And Tammy Daybell was taking medication. She was taking Prozac, which is fluoxetine. Is that right?
Fluoxetine, yes.
Fluoxetine. Correct. And she was also taking tramadol, right?
She was prescribed tramadol, yes.
Right. And what's the tramadol for?
Pain.
Okay. So she was in some discomfort of some kind.
Yes.
Okay. And then we go down below where it says family history. And would you read the 4 lines under what Tammy's family suffers as a result of family history, please?
Mother suffers with cancer and thyroid issues. Father suffers with depression and heart disease.
Okay. Thank you. And Judge, that's all I have for 21. Judge, could I be handed exhibit number 20?
Yes.
Exhibit E.
Hey, Megan. I know, right?
And Judge, again, this has been previously admitted by stipulation of the parties.
It is admitted, yes.
Now, did you take the time to look at Tammy Daybell's death certificate?
No, I did not.
You didn't consider that?
No.
So you looked at some medical records and said she has anemia and she's on Prozac. And you looked at Officer Greenow's report, right?
Yes.
But you didn't look at any death certificate?
No.
Did you read Brenda Dye's report?
No, I did not.
Did you read Officer Greenow's report?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so when you took consideration of why you dug up Tammy Daybell, and by the way, just before we get there, Tammy Daybell's children were never notified that you were digging their mother out of the ground, were you?
No, there was not.
Yeah. So her own children were not advised that.
Overruled.
So her own family were never advised that you're digging their mother out of the ground without letting them know in any shape, form, or opportunity to respond. Is that right?
Yes.
I'd like you to look at the certificate of death, and I'm going to point down to where it says the cause of death. You see my arrow down there?
Yes.
Okay. And the cause of death, they list 2 things on the cause of death for Tammy Daybell's death. And would you read those out loud, what those 2 are?
Cardiac event and pulmonary edema.
Okay. Heart issues, right?
Yes.
And you saw that in the medical history of Tammy Daybell, her father had a history of heart disease, right?
Yes.
So you didn't take that into consideration when you decided to dig Tammy up out of the ground, right?
No, I'd never seen this before.
You never looked at it?
No.
You never talked to anybody about what the death certificate said before you decided to have her dug up, right?
Correct.
And you went in front of a judge.
Dug up. And
you put on testimony to justify digging her up out of the ground, and you didn't even once look at the certificate of death, did you?
No.
Okay.
What do you guys think about this part? Is it just him blowing smoke? Or do you think there's something to
counsel previously discussed Officer Greenow's report, and for the life of me, I don't see the exhibit number on that, but it was admitted.
What is it?
I believe it was 418.
41A?
418.
Still sitting right here, Your Honor.
Oh, 418 still up on the.
And Judge, could I have the bailiff take back exhibit number 20?
Yes.
And exchange it with me with the.
And yeah, 418 was still up there, so.
Thank you. Oops, let's do this. Size. Okay. Okay, so can you see that report?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the second
Mr. Pryor, I need to have you talking to the microphone.
A hard time hearing you. Do you mind
The second
pulling the
paragraph,
microphone down and then aiming it up at your chin?
talks about how Tammy was found by her husband. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to read, starting with the second paragraph to the end where it talks to 911. If you would read that loud so that everybody can hear that, please.
He called for his son to come help put Tamara back onto the bed.
No, I'm talking about where the words start with the deceased. I'm sorry, up here where it says the deceased. That's where I'd like you to start.
You want me to read the whole paragraph?
The whole paragraph, if you would, please.
Okay. This deceased, Tamara M. Daybell, was found by her husband, Chad G. Daybell. Chad told me Tamara had been sick and had a severe coughing fit at approximately 00 hours. During this fit, she vomited, then she returned to bed and she said she was fine. At approximately 5:40 hours, Chad felt the blanket slide off the bed and woke up to see Tamara had partially fallen off the bed. Chad told her to get up, and when she didn't answer, he turned on the lights and found that she was deceased. She had partially fallen off the bed, her head was touching the floor, and her feet were still on the bed. Chad said she was cold and stiff. He called for his son to come help put Tamara back onto the bed. Chad then called 911.
Okay. So when you talk about a lack of medical conditions, did you read this report before you went to a judge and get an order digging Tamara Daybell up out of the ground?
Yes.
Okay. So did you happen to notify the judge that Tamara was having fits the night before, she was vomiting and was sick and was generally not doing well? Did you mention that to the judge?
No.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the second paragraph now. And if you would read the second paragraph, starting with Chad said Tamara.
Chad said Tamara didn't have any serious medical conditions. She was taking fluoxetine for depression, but did not have any other prescriptions. Chad said the last time she was at the doctor was approximately 2 months ago when she had fallen in the driveway and injured her arm. The doctor had given her steroid shots and she was not having further issues. Chad said she had been feeling sick with something like a cold lately and that she would have gone to the doctor today. Chad said she has low blood pressure and faints occasionally. Chad said that she has been going through menopause and also has been having aches and back pain for approximately 2 weeks and that she was going to visit the chiropractor soon. Chad said she didn't go to the doctor often because she didn't like doctors.
And you were aware of that based on the research of her medical records that Tammy Daybell didn't like to go to the doctor, did she?
Yeah.
Right. And you were aware that Tammy Daybell would use herbal medicine and oils and other medications in lieu of going to the doctor to try to cure herself in other ways, untraditional ways, right?
That's what the report said, yes.
Right. So instead of going to the doctor for fainting spells and for these other things that were going on, she would take supplements and do things like that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'll go back down. And the next one talks about Chad showing all of the over-the-counter medications she takes. He said she's taken approximately 10 bottles on the tablet every morning that she takes to help her. Okay? And then read the last line where it says most. In that paragraph I just read, where the last sentence says most of what was
in the cupboard.
Mr. Pryor, you turn that sideways so you
I'm
can't.
sorry. That makes it tough, doesn't it? I was trying to pull one on you, apparently. Go ahead.
Most of what was in the cupboard was essential oils and natural remedies and some pain medications.
Wait, can I play that again? He is so funny. I can't help but like John Pryor. I'm sorry. He's taken on a freaking death penalty case by himself without whining and bringing some sarcasm and a little bit of dry humor into it. I mean, you got to give the guy some props.
Mr. Pryor, you turn that sideways so you
I'm
can't.
sorry. That makes it tough, doesn't it? I was trying to pull one on you, apparently. Go ahead.
Most of what was in the cupboard was
judge
essential oils
chuckled.
and natural remedies and some pain medications.
Okay. So it looks like the list below talks about the Prozac, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, whatever vitality extracts are, but at the very bottom,
Vitality.
it says supplement, right?
Yes.
And what is that supplement for?
The supplement for bruising and sore muscles.
So for treating bruising and sore muscles, did you have any history that Tammy Daybell had a history of easily bruising?
I didn't see any, no.
Did you see anything that suggested that Tammy Daybell had bruises on her body at the time she passed away?
Yes, there was some.
Yeah, and you're aware that those bruises were old bruises, right?
I don't recall.
Okay. And if Brenda Dye put in her report that they were old bruises, you would have no reason to dispute that, right?
Yeah, I have no reason.
Okay. But Tammy Daybell clearly was taking medication for bruising, right?
That's what the report said.
That's what the report says, right?
I told you guys this was pretty big.
And we're going to
Or
try to
pretty
do
good,
this,
not
see how
big.
skilled I really am. Okay. But at the very bottom, it starts with the last sentence. I was later advised by the coroner. If you could read that for me.
I was later advised by the coroner that Tamara's son told her he also takes fluoxetine from the same bottle as his mother. I was also advised that Chad
told
the coroner that sometimes Tamara had minor shaking fits consistent with seizure activity. Tamara's daughter Emma also advised the coroner that she takes clogging classes with her mother, and her mother has seemed to slow down in her movements in the last couple months. Tamara had also been saying she felt out of her body recently.
Okay. So
She was
again,
being drugged.
Mr. Daybell is talking to the coroner or Officer Greenall, and it talks about the fact that Tammy's having seizures and that she's having fits shaking, and that her daughter is saying that she's slowed down and she's not able to keep up and that she's been feeling out of sorts, right?
Yes.
And based on that, you didn't take that into consideration when you decided to dig up Tammy Daybell, did you?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
The next sentence with I advised.
I advised the coroner of everything I had learned from my investigation, and she agreed that the death was a natural one.
I advised the coroner of everything I had
He's
learned
like,
from my investigation and agreed the
hold
death
up.
was a natural one. That's Officer Greenall, right?
Yes.
So according to Officer Greenall, in discussing this with the coroner and with all of this information, came to the conclusion that Tammy Daybell's death was a natural one. Right?
Yes.
And you didn't report that to the judge when you decided, and it's not this judge. You didn't report that to the judge when you decided to get a warrant to dig Tammy Daybell up. You didn't mention that to the judge, did you?
No.
Okay. The last sentence in that paragraph. Would you read that one for me?
The coroner determined an autopsy was not necessary unless the family wanted one, which they did not.
Okay. And then the very last sentence before Officer Greenall, where it says it was
determined by the coroner that the death was due to probable heart attack due to pulmonary edema.
okay. And this is a determination that was made by a coroner at the time of the what you call the unattended call of Tammy Daybell, right?
Yes.
And in talking with the folks down in Gilbert, they told you that Chad knew Lori Vallow, right?
Yes.
They had no other information about the death of Tammy Daybell, did they?
No.
You had the information, and you're the one who took that information and went in front of a judge and got an order to dig Tammy Daybell up.
Yes.
And you did it without telling the children that they're digging their mother out of the ground. Is that right?
Yes.
And you didn't take into consideration the seizures, did you?
No.
You didn't take into consideration the shaking, did you?
No.
You didn't take into consideration the anemia, did you?
No.
You didn't take in any of the medical information other than you told the judge there's no medical history here. That's what you told the judge, isn't it?
Off the medical record, yes.
Off the medical records, right?
Yes.
You didn't look at anything else, right?
No.
You didn't look at the certificate of death that says pulmonary edema, heart issues, did you?
I did not see that, no.
You didn't see it or you didn't look?
I didn't look.
The guy didn't look.
Judge, I'm done. This officer's under subpoena to be called back. I intend to call him back.
All right, well, I'm going to allow some redirect.
He got intense there, didn't he? Woke you up, I bet, Cheryl.
Lieutenant Powell, excuse me. At the time that you sought the exhumation order,
I don't have anything.
were you aware that that Lori's children were missing?
No. I believe yes.
Were you aware that Chad and Lori had a quick marriage after Tammy's death?
Judge objects. It goes beyond cross.
Overruled.
You can answer that.
Will you repeat the question, please?
At the time that you did seek the exhumation order, had you become aware that Chad and Lori had a quick marriage right after Tammy's death?
Yes.
And in fact, as to the dates, what was the date again that Tammy died?
I was notified October 19th, 2019.
And in fact, what was the date that you surveilled Chad and Tammy holding hands at Hobby Lobby?
November 1st.
12 days?
Approximately, yeah.
Mr. Pryor asked you several questions about Allie Greenhall's report.
Yes.
Do you recall who provided the bulk of the information in that report?
Chad Daybell.
And did you ever find out prior to requesting an exhumation whether Chad Daybell wanted an autopsy?
The reporter said he did not.
Did that factor into your decision to seek an exhumation order?
Yes.
How?
Just with all the circumstances and medical records and everything.
Prior to seeking the exhumation order, had you ever heard the name Charles Vallow?
Yes.
And who is that?
Judge, this is going beyond cross.
I do agree with that at this point.
May I argue it, Judge?
Go ahead.
Judge, with the extensive cross-examination about challenging this officer's request for exhumation, I think it's not outside the cross. It's maybe another data point, but it's well within what the cross-examination was.
Well, I don't know if it is or not. The way it's asked, it just seems to be going into a new area. So if it's tied in somehow to the cross, then I may allow it. But for now, it's objection sustained.
Okay. Lieutenant Powell, were there other reasons that I've not asked you yet that went into your decision to seek an exhumation order?
All the deaths surrounding Lori Vallow and Alex Cox.
What were all those deaths?
Which again, we're going into an area that was not opened up.
No, I believe
I'm gonna object, Judge.
That's opened up, so I'll overrule the objection.
Can you please explain to the jury all the deaths, what you meant by that?
Lori Vallow's last husband had been shot by Alex Cox.
Did you understand approximately what date that had occurred?
I don't recall the date.
Was that part of the information that was relayed through Gilbert Police Department?
Yes.
So how did the fact that Lori's husband had been killed factor into your suspicions about Tammy's death?
And well, you had the attempting shooting, the murder.
And I'm just asking you from a common sense perspective as a law enforcement officer, how was that information impacting you to decide to get an exhumation order?
Judge, calls for speculation.
I'm asking. Oh,
Give me a second. Overruled.
you may answer the question.
Will you repeat that?
Yeah, I'm just asking from a common sense perspective for you to please explain to the jury why all of that information bolstered your thinking that you needed to seek an exhumation order.
Because of all the deaths around Lori, or Alex and Chad.
So is it safe to say that when you do any investigation, do you just follow the facts and where they lead you?
Yes.
And so despite what was in Ali Greenhall's report, did all these other facts lead you to seek the exhumation order?
Yes.
And to be clear, you were asked several questions about the death certificate.
Yes.
And who issues a death certificate typically?
The coroner.
I'm just asking if you are aware of whether or not the coroner at the time of Tammy's death had all this other information about Lori and Alex and Charles Vallow.
No, she did not.
Objection, Judge. There's been no basis to establish where that knowledge comes from. Moving to strike.
Yeah, the objection did come in late, but I will sustain the objection for lack of foundation, and I will strike the answer. So I'm instructing the jurors to please disregard that last answer.
In terms of your surveillance of Chad and Tammy, how long that day, let me withdraw that. Please tell the jury again, what day did you initiate your surveillance of Chad and Tammy?
November 1st, 2019.
Thinking back now, how many hours did they spend together that day?
Objection, relevance.
Again, it goes to the relation.
Thanks, Mr. Exum. Objection's overruled.
I'd say approximately 4 to 6 hours.
And were they riding in a car together?
Yes, when we surveilled them to Idaho Falls, there was.
Did you happen to notice if there were any children with them at the time?
No, there was not.
You never saw any children with them at all?
Never seen any children.
No, I have no further questions.
Judge, can I recross in the event that he brought up some things about Mr. Vallow that I would like to be able to touch on a little bit?
Very limited in scope.
Thank you.
Mr. Pryor, I'll allow on that.
Oh, no, you have bronchitis.
Officer, you made an interesting comment about Chad Daybell and Alex Cox. Are you aware that Chad Daybell is not implicated in the murder of Charles Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. Not involved, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right. And in the shooting an attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. Same thing. Alex Cox, Lori Vallow are implicated in that crime, right?
Yes,
And Chad Daybell is not implicated in that crime. Is that right?
not to my knowledge, no.
So this other knowledge that Mr. Wixom spoke to you about, this knowledge that somehow Chad, he must have known these people. So because he knew those people and he's not implicated in those other murder and attempted murder by Alex Cox, Chad's not implicated. How does that give you a right to dig up Tammy Daybell?
With all the association and all the deaths around it.
Oh, so because she went to Hobby Lobby with him, because she went to a restaurant, and because you surveilled them, and obviously they were having a relationship, right?
Yes,
And that's the other information you use to dig her out of the ground, right?
yes,
That's the other information you use to dig her out of the ground, right?
yes.
Judge, I have nothing else.
All right, that'll conclude the recross then, and not having any more redirect. So, is it correct from the state then that this witness is likely to be recalled?
Judge, given today, we may well reserve the right to recall this witness, and I believe he's under subpoena by the defense as well.
He's under subpoena by the defense, Judge.
Okay, Lieutenant Powell, then I'll admonish you that there is an exclusionary order, meaning you're not permitted to observe any trial testimony going forward while this trial is being live streamed.
Published States Exhibit 186.
You may publish.
Okay, we're going to start going over now. This is still yesterday afternoon, but we're going to start going over Chad Daybell's phone records. Are you guys ready? So this is going to be the prosecutor bringing in the exhibit of phone number attributions of Chad, Lori, and Alex.
Attribution. Were there specific individuals that you were looking to attribute numbers to?
Yes.
And who were those individuals?
Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, and Alex Cox.
And FYI, this is an FBI analyst. Hi, Kristen, babe. This is an FBI analyst going over phone records. And she remains on the stand this morning as well. So we're going to finish up yesterday, and then we're going to do AM of today. Then tomorrow we skip a day, and then we'll be back on Thursday with PM of today. And you get what I'm saying. We're going to go in cycles, but every other day, if that makes sense. So today's Tuesday. We'll be going Thursday and probably Saturday.
And this is the second slide of the presentation that you prepared. In looking at this, how many numbers did you attribute to Chad Daybell?
Between the time frame of October 2018 and January 2020, there were 9 phone numbers.
And of those 9 phone numbers, did you determine certain ones were of more interest?
Yes.
And how many were those?
3.
And how about in regard to Lori Vallow, how many numbers were attributed to her during that time frame?
6 phone numbers.
And similar question, were there some that were of more interest?
Yes.
And how many were those?
Again, 3.
And with regard to Alex Cox, how many phone numbers were attributed to him?
6.
And of those were some of more interest?
Yes, 3.
And you talked about a specific time frame. Why did you look at that specific time frame?
We learned through the investigation that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow met on October 26, 2018. So we went back through October 2018 through sort of the end of the investigation of January 2020.
And when you talk about the end of the investigation, was there still an active investigation into the whereabouts of the children?
The whereabouts, yes.
So you'd focused on this time frame of when there may have been communications between the parties. Is that fair?
Correct, yes.
And turning specifically to Chad first, in looking at that first number, is this a number that was attributed to him?
It was.
And can you read the number into the record?
208-690-9374.
And under that, there are 9 things listed. Are these things that assisted in attributing this phone number to the defendant, Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Were there other things that assisted in attributing the number?
There could be, yes.
Were these the main ones that you looked at?
Yes.
And can you go through this list of the 9 things?
Yes. This list of 9 items were documents, primarily documents, but other phones or something that I reviewed that had the 208 number in close relation to another identifier, either Chad's name or an account number, address, something along those lines that were attributed to Chad. So that phone number was subscribed to Tammy Daybell since March 17th, 2018. It was listed as the contact number for Chad Daybell on a Hawaii rental agreement effective December 15th, 2019. It was saved as contact Chad and Tammy Daybell's phone. It was the SMS or text number associated with chad.daybell@gmail.com. It was listed on a Citibank application in Chad's name. It was listed on the Life Map Insurance Benefit Claim form next to Chad's name. It was saved as contact Bishop Shumway in the Lori for Style iCloud account. It was associated.
Okay, so yeah, you heard that right. You heard that right. Lori Vallow Daybell's iCloud was Lori for Style. It's kind of like Letitia. She's fashion. She's fashion. And then Lori has another email that's going to come up, and it's called Lolly. Oh, Lolly, I can't remember Lolly something, but her deceased older sister, there was a baby before Lori that died in the Cox family, and they named it Lolly. Lolly, 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 get your adverbs here. But no, seriously. And she has an email with her dead older sister's baby, older sister's name in it. So they had a baby, the Coxes, and it died, Lolly. Then they went ahead and had Lori. So I think that, and I went into this in my numerous Daybell Vallow dives, Cox dives. So they had this baby and it died. That was Lolly. Then they named it Lori. And I think Lori was expected to fill the place of Lolly. I think she's got a lot of issues from her family.
With Chad on some Allegiant flight records, and it was saved as contact Dad in Seth Daybell's phone.
And do you know who Seth Daybell is in relation to Chad?
Seth is Chad's son.
And Tammy Daybell was Chad's wife?
Correct.
Chad's chin.
Could I ask the witness to please maybe just pull the mic down a little more and talk right into it?
Yes, sir.
Right down
It's
to
not
your
that
chin.
sensitive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A hard time hearing you. Do you mind pulling your
And
microphone
then looking
down
at this
and then
next
aiming it up at your
part of
chin?
it here, there's a reference to a Cricket account. Can you tell me what the significance of the Cricket account is?
2 additional phone numbers of interest were
Cricket.
identified, and when the subscriber information returned, it came back to a Boyd dial in Mesa, Arizona.
And talking about a Boyd dial, are you aware if there was any investigation done to determine whether or not there is a Boyd dial that actually exists?
Yes.
And was there an investigation conducted?
Yes.
Do you know, were you part of that?
Yes.
And were you able to identify any actual Boyd dials?
Yes. We found 2.
Do you know if either agents or detectives did some follow-up with those Boyd dials?
Yeah, I believe some FBI agents in Utah interviewed the 2 Boyd dials as part of this investigation and cleared them of any knowledge.
And when you were trying to
Who's
determine if
Boyd
there's any other
dials?
Boyd dials in existence, what are some of the things that you were looking for to see if they're a real person?
So through database searches primarily, I conducted searches for Boyd dial, PO Box 405, Mesa, Arizona, and received negative results. I then did Boyd dial in Arizona and again received negative results. And then I just did a very broad picture of Boyd dial in the US. And those were the 2 that came back.
And I'm sorry, it's so blurry. It's really far away in the regular video. So when you zoom in, it's even worse. But this is one of the fake names they used, like the Dan Schneider.
In Utah, that came back as being real individuals.
And if you know, was there anything found to link either of the Boyd dials you located to these devices or these phone numbers?
No.
And I said devices. Let me be clear. How many devices did you identify as being associated with the numbers we're going to talk about next?
There was 1 device for all 4 numbers. Yes.
And so this first number that we're seeing here, can you read that into the record?
480-395-5126.
And there's 2 things listed here.
Give
Are
Chad
those
a
2 of
call.
the factors that you considered in attributing this number to Chad Daybell?
Yes.
And can you read what those are? Explain a little bit about them.
This phone number was activated on October 31st, 2018, which was just a few days after Chad and Lori met, and then was either expired or deactivated on January 31st, 2019. And then secondly, it was saved as Melanie 2 in the Lori for Style iCloud account, along with Chad Daybell's known phone number, 208-690-9374. So the Melanie 2 contact had 2 phone numbers associated with it.
And that was in the Lori for Style iCloud account?
Correct.
Do you know who that iCloud account was associated with?
With Lori Vallow.
And the next number on here, can you also read that one into the record?
480-812-5496.
And similarly, there are two things here. Are these things that you use to attribute this number to Chad Daybell?
Yes.
And could you explain a little bit about those?
This phone number was activated the same day that the prior number expired, January 31st, 2019 through July 1st, 2019. And it was saved as contact Janie in the Lori for Style iCloud account.
And this next number, can you read it into the record as well?
515-402-0143.
And on this one, there's 6 different things listed under it. Are those factors that you use to identify this phone as one associated with Chad Daybell?
Yes.
And can you go through those for us and explain a little bit?
The 515 number was first identified by the Chandler Police Department in Lori's 480-692-9562 call detail records and saved as contact Bubby in the Lolly Time iCloud account. It was activated.
That's what it is. Lolly Time. Lolly Time is her iCloud. Her deceased sister, not Stacy, but Lolly, the baby. And Cricket is a phone company, and I think it's for like older people, like Cricket, like the buttons are bigger. I think it's for like elderly, which I'm almost there. I'm 50, so I'll take a Cricket now. I can't see shit anyways.
On July 1st, 2019, the same day that the 5496 number expired, and was active through October 8th, 2019. This number called the Valley of the Sun mortuary on July 11th, 2019, and there was a recording of Chad Daybell on that call. There's a text from Lori that read conf number 99NBQ4, which returned an Allegiant Airlines flight in Chad's name. On August 11th, 2019, Lori sent a text to this number, which August 11th is Chad's birthday, saying birthday kisses all over.
Ew,
and it was saved
birthday-
as Rebecca Shumway in the Lori for Style iCloud account.
Sending birthday kisses all over, Lori says.
And
no, I'm not calling you old. I'm saying I want a Cricket.
we talked about the Lori for Style iCloud being associated with Lori Vallow. Do you know who the Lolly Time iCloud account was associated with?
Also with Lori Vallow.
And then we have one more number listed here. Can you read the number into the record?
401-569-8260.
And under this one, there are also 6 things listed. Were those 6 things what assisted in attributing this phone number to Chad Daybell?
Yes.
And could you go through those 6 things and explain a little bit?
This number was first identified as the first attributable contact of Alex's 334 phone number. It was activated the same day that the 515 number expired, which was October 8th, 2019, and ran through December 30th, 2019. On October 8th, the same day that this phone number was activated, Chad conducted a Google search for Rhode Island area code, the Rhode Island area code being 401. There was a text from 208-690-9374, also known as Chad's known number, to Lori on October 9th, 2019, saying, "I will call right now from a 401 number." The only contact that this attributable contact that this phone number had was with a number attributed to Lori, 480-489-4652, and another number attributed to Alex, 334-744-4205. And finally, it was saved as contact Bishop Miller in the Lori for Style iCloud account.
Lori for Style.
And again, looking at these that are listed under the Cricket account, I think on all of them you have that as one number is being deactivated, a new number is being activated.
Correct.
And again, these all had the same, appear to be linked to the same device.
Correct. They all shared the same IMEI number.
And then we notice here as well, we've got 3 numbers in yellow and 2 in white. Could you talk a little bit about why the different designations there?
Yes, as previously mentioned, there are a lot of cell phones in this investigation to sort of minimize the noise and really highlight the phone numbers that are going to be used in this case, in this trial. The numbers in yellow you're going to hear about quite frequently. The 2 numbers in white, they were predating sort of the crime portion. They are helpful to attribute the phone numbers to Chad, but we didn't focus on them. We didn't see any content, text content in the iCloud accounts. So we can see that they were speaking to people in the cases, but the focus of the investigation was on those 3 yellow numbers.
And is that why the 3 yellow numbers all have more items listed as to how they were attributed to Chad?
Correct, yes.
And then on this next slide, we see 2 additional numbers that appear to be attributed to Chad. Could you read the first number into the record?
602-290-7288.
And similarly on this, we see two things listed. Are those how this number was attributed to Chad?
Yes.
And can you explain a little bit about those two items?
So in addition to there being a lot of phone numbers, there were also a lot of aliases for individuals through this investigation. So to help understand that, not just attributing the phone number to Chad or Lori, also to attribute the concepts of these different names or aliases to Chad or Lori. So the 602 number received a text sent a text on December 4th, 2019 to a group chat of the Daybell children that read, "Hi, this is Dad." And this phone number was also saved as contact Raphael in Zulema's phone, which was one of Chad's aliases.
And
so Zulema, who was Alex's wife, was pulling some fast ones by saving Chad in her phone as who? Rodriguez? These people are, I'm telling you, they're all sus. Every last one of them.
To a group chat of the Daybell children that read, "Hi, this is Dad." And this phone number was also saved as contact Raphael in Zulema's phone, which was one of Chad's aliases.
And when you talk about Zulema, do you know Zulema's last name?
Castenas.
And so when you talk about one of Chad's known names, is that the Raphael?
Correct.
Oh, Raphael.
Thank you. And then there's a second number here. If you could read that into the record.
We're 80-341-9585.
And under this one, there are three things listed. Are those what assisted in attributing this number to Chad?
Yes.
And could you explain a little bit about those three things?
Yes. Another name for another alias of Chad was James and Elena as Lori. So the James and Elena iCloud account was associated with this 480, or the number that ends in 9585 was associated with the James loves Elena iCloud account. There's a text from this number, again, to the Daybell children, a group chat that's on 12/14/2019 that begins, "Hi, this is Chad." And according to Ian Pulowski, it was a number being used by Chad and Lori.
And when you say names associated with them, did you learn through your investigation that a name used by Chad was James or used to refer to him?
Yes.
And Elena was a name used to refer to Lori?
Correct.
Thank you. And these numbers are also in white. Can you explain if these numbers were a focus?
They were not a focus. They were after the crimes had occurred.
And as you indicated, they were also a way in determining different aliases or names used by Chad and Lori.
Correct, yes.
Thank you. The next one that we go to has Lori Noreen Vallow, cell phone attribution at the top. And
Noreen.
So as we go through this one, the first number listed here, can you read that into the record?
480-489-4652.
And under this one, there are 7 things listed. Are these 7 things part of what assisted in associating or linking this number to Lori Vallow?
Yes.
And can you go through those 7 things?
This number was first identified by the Chandler Police Department during a review of the Lori for Style iCloud account. There is no subscriber name from the provider. However, account IDs were LollyTime at iCloud and Lori for Style at Hotmail.
Lori.
And the credit card information attached to this phone number was in Lori's valid name. And this account was effective from January 31st, 2019 through December 28th, 2019. This number appeared next to Lori's name on Allegiant flight records. It was saved as contact Lori and Lily in Melanie Boudreau Pulowski's phones. It was saved as contact Lori Vallow in Zulema's phone, along with 480-692-9562. It appeared in Delta flight records, along with KKWalker75 at yahoo.com. And it was also a contact number on a Hawaii wedding quote request submitted by Lori.
Their loin fire. Oh, they were.
And the next number here, if you could read that into the record.
480-692-9562.
And similarly, there are 7 things listed under this number. Could you explain a little bit about those in relation to this phone number?
Sure. Again, these appeared in various places within the investigation. We first learned of it during Chandler PD's review of Charles Vallow's cell phone, revealed this as another number for Lori. This number was actually subscribed to Lori Vallow, which was effective from February 4th, 2019 through January 5th, 2020. It was associated with the LollyTime at iCloud, Lori for Style at iCloud, and LollyTimeForever at gmail.com accounts. It was an Amazon shipping contact for Charles Vallow at 565 Pioneer Road, apartment 175 in Rexburg, Idaho. It was a number provided on an application for PO Box 415 in Sugar City, Idaho. It was saved as contact Lily and Lolo in Melanie Boudreau Pulowski's phone. And
okay, so Melanie, her niece, saved Lori as Lily and Lolo. Now, Lolly was also nicknamed Lolo, and so was Lori. Creepy.
Is another number on the contact as a contact on the Hawaii wedding quote request submitted by Lori.
And looking at this, through your portion of the investigation, did you ever learn whether or not Charles Vallow ever lived at that 565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg, Idaho?
He did not.
Did you learn whether or not Charles Vallow ever had a P.O. box in Sugar City, Idaho?
He did not.
And looking at the next number here, can you read the number into the record?
808-755-5452.
And similarly, on this one, there are 7 items listed. Were these 7 items what assisted in attributing this phone number to Lori Vallow?
Yes.
And could you go through those 7 items?
This number was provided by Lori to the Chandler Police Department. It was subscribed to Premier Financial Services between January 8th, 2016 through November 24th, 2019. It was associated with Lori for Style at iCloud. There was an instant message to Peter Dixon on August 8th, 2019 that read, "Hi, Peter, this is Lori Vallow." It is saved as contact Lolo Vallow and Melanie Boudreau-Pulowski's phone. It is saved as contact Lily and Melanie Boudreau-Pulowski's phone. And it was another contact number on the Hawaii wedding quote request submitted by Lori.
And do you know who was part of Premier Financial Services?
Charles Vallow and Lori Vallow.
And with all 3 of these numbers, we see all 3 of these in yellow. Were these all numbers that were determined to be of interest in the investigation?
Yes.
And as we've gone through these, for some of these numbers, could there have been other things that assisted in the attribution in attributing these to Lori Vallow?
Yes.
But these were the main ones that you focused in on?
That I focused on, yes.
And turning next to the numbers associated with Alex Cox. Could you read that first number into the record?
480-351-9120.
And under that, there are 6 items listed. Could you go through, and let me back up. Did these 6 items assist in attributing this phone number to Alex Cox?
Yes.
Could you go through those 6 and explain a little bit?
This was a contact number provided by Alex Cox to the Chandler Police Department. It was subscribed in Alex Cox's name with an effective date of February 27th, 2015 through, we don't know when it ended based on the search warrant. It is associated with email accounts homerjmaximus@gmail.com and homerjmaximus@yahoo.com. It's saved as contact Alex Cox and lollytime@icloud.com. It's saved as contact Alex Cox and Lori for Style @icloud.com. It was listed as a contact number for Alex Cox on Allegiant flight records, which also included homerjmaximus@yahoo.com.
And if you could read this next number into the record.
304-960-5998.
And this one has 2 items listed. Were those items what assisted in attributing this number to Alex Cox?
Yes.
And could you explain a little bit about those 2 items?
This phone number was identified through its IMEI through the homerjmaximus@gmail.com records. There's no subscriber name, but the account ID was raymaximus@gmail.com.
And that is Alex. Homer J. Maximus.
Effective date of September 27th, 2019 through December 28th, 2019.
And this next number?
334-744-4205.
And there are 3 items listed here. Were those items what assisted in attributing this number to Alex Cox?
Yes.
And could you go through those 3 items listed there?
This phone number was associated with a Samsung Galaxy phone recovered from Alex's Rexburg apartment. Again, there's no subscriber name, but the account ID was raylamar@gmail.com with an effective dates of October 9th, 2019 through January 9th, 2020. And it was saved as contact Spencer's wife and Lori for Style @icloud.com.
And similarly with these 3 numbers, could there have been other things that assisted in attributing these numbers to Alex Cox?
Yes.
Are these the ones that you focused in on?
Yes.
And when we talked about Chad Daybell, we talked about more numbers. But on the first slide, we talked about there were those 3 main numbers of interest identified.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And on one of those, you'd indicated that it was only in contact with a number associated with Alex Cox and one associated with Lori Vallow. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was the number for Lori Vallow one of the ones that you'd identified as a main number with her?
Yes.
And was the one identified as Alex one of the numbers that you've identified as a main number associated with him as well?
Yes.
All right.
And Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
That is where the day ended yesterday. So
Judge,
we are officially done with day 3, AM and PM. And we are going to get ahead of the game. We're going to be on day 4 now. And this is day 4 of the AM session. That is today. So we'll be caught up after this up until the afternoon session of day 4. And then on, excuse me, on Thursday, we'll go live at 3 p.m. and we will go over PM of day 4 and all of day 5. So stick with me. Every other day, we will be getting caught up on this trial. So let's pull up today's morning session, which is it's fire because this is Pryor's cross-examination on the FBI agent. So I think you guys will like this one. All right. And we're going to be switching views a little bit too. I figured that would be the best way to cover it, Foot Sleuth. I'm glad that you like that because I've seen most of, this testimony, but we'll be bringing in the new stuff and just highlighting. Okay. So thank you for being here. Let's get into day 4. This is this morning.
Witness. And as you testify, Ms. Blake and Ms. Heideman, please talk right into the microphones so we get a good, clear audio. And with that in mind, you can continue with your direct, Ms. Blake.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sorry. Miss Blake finishes with the FBI agent and then Pryor does his cross. She has a little bit to finish.
Ms. Heideman, we left off yesterday going through phone attribution, but just since we had a break, will you remind the jury where you're employed?
The Federal Bureau of Investigation.
And what is your job title?
Tactical Specialist.
And in assisting with this investigation regarding the missing children, did that investigation ultimately expand into more than just missing children?
It did.
And what did it expand to include?
Into the deaths of Charles Vallow, J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, Tammy Daybell, and shooting attempts of Brandon Boudreaux and Tammy Daybell.
And as part...
Tammy, yes.
As part of your role in the investigation, were you tasked with looking at some Google searches done in association with a Gmail associated with Chad Daybell and a Gmail address associated with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
And did you in fact look at some searches that were conducted by both of those two?
Yes.
Or their emails?
Their email accounts, correct.
And in looking through those, did you focus on a specific time date?
Yes.
And what was that?
In general, from October 2018 through January 2020.
And was it a similar time frame that you looked at in the phone attributions as well?
Yes.
In looking through those searches, did you prepare an exhibit today?
Yes.
And did you prepare that exhibit based off your searches and what you reviewed in relation to the evidence or discovery?
Yes, I did.
Do you believe that that would assist in your testimony today?
Yes.
And do you believe it would assist the jurors in understanding as well?
I do.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be shown what's been marked as State's Exhibit 184A. I do have a copy for the court. I gave counsel a copy yesterday. Similar to the exhibit yesterday, there is actually a thumb drive that contains this actual exhibit, but these are printout slides from a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Sir. And if you could look at those pages. Is that an accurate depiction of the PowerPoint that you put together?
It is.
And when we look at that, we talked about the time frame that you focused on. During the time you were looking at these searches, were the children still missing?
Yes.
And in part of what you were looking for, were you still focused on attempting to locate the children or learn information about them?
Yes.
Does this accurately reflect a summary of the searches that you pulled out as relevant at that point in time?
Yes.
Do you believe these are still relevant?
I do.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of State's Exhibit 184A.
Judge, as a summary, there won't be any objection.
All right, 184A is admitted. And again, to
Pryor's
be
such a
clear,
nice
that's not
guy.
the printed off sheets. That will be the PowerPoint on a file contained on a thumb drive, correct, Ms. Blake?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, it is admitted.
And Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
I think they didn't
Yes.
have them on, Megs. I think they actually turned them on is the issue. Just as a reminder, this is today's testimony, the AM session. Sorry,
my computer is thinking a moment.
I'm going to get drunk and ride my horse.
On this first slide, can you walk us through what we're seeing here?
Yes, this is a summary of search activity of interest observed in an account titled chad.daybell@gmail.com. We started the review on October 1st, 2018 through the end of the production when legal process ended.
And do you recall approximately when that would have been?
I don't remember off the top of my head what the search warrant dates were, no.
Is your recollection that they would have been around the same time as that phone attribution?
Probably pretty close, yes.
So again, when the children were still missing?
Correct.
And if we look at that first search there, and I say search, let me back up. When we look at the first date there, can you walk us through what those searches were?
Yes. On January 28th, 2019, there was searches for Ned Snyder, 1996 death, Louisiana. Ned Snyder, Louisiana. Ned Snyder, Louisiana, born 1951, died 1996. And bodies possessed after original occupant dies.
And in looking at that, there's some semicolons. Why are those there?
They were separate searches, or the way that the return comes in, it might have been a search and then visiting a site, for example. So I didn't separate out which ones. These just appear in the search history under different times, different searches, but on the same date.
So several searches done on the same date for Ned Snyder. Why did that stick out to you?
That is connected to other portions of this investigation, wherein Charles Vallow makes a comment right around this time.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point.
Basis.
Well, it's hearsay.
At this
and
point.
In addition, Judge, there's no foundation to establish where this witness gained that information. So at the very least, I'd like some foundation. And then in addition, there's also a hearsay argument as well.
It's sustained on grounds of hearsay, calls for hearsay.
Thank you, Your Honor. As part of this investigation, we talked earlier that originally you get involved in looking for missing children.
Correct.
And at some point that expanded to include other acts.
Yes.
And you mentioned previously that one of those acts was the killing of Charles Vallow.
Correct.
Through your investigation, did you come to learn anything in relation to Charles Vallow and Ned Snyder?
Yes.
What did you learn in relation to the investigation?
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. There hasn't been sufficient foundation to establish how this witness learned of this information as it relates to Charles Vallow.
I will.
Investigation, did you review multiple documents?
I did.
Did you review multiple reports?
Yes.
Did you review phone data that was recovered?
I did.
In your review of reports and phone data, did you learn anything regarding the name Ned Snyder?
I did.
Did you learn of the importance of the name Ned Snyder?
Yes.
And what did you learn regarding the name Ned Snyder?
Judge, again, I'm going to renew my objection on the basis of foundation. The only reference to knowledge was from reports or documents that are unidentified. If this witness is going to start relaying information about what she learned, I would think at least I'd be entitled to know what document she's referring to, where this information was gained from.
And Your Honor, may I respond?
Go ahead, Ms. White.
Your Honor, I think under the collective knowledge doctrine, she's already talked about it being a joint investigation, that she reviewed and discussed the matter. And in relation to hearsay, it's not coming in for the truth of the matter. It's coming in for why she does what she does and why it's relevant to her through the investigation.
I am going to overrule the objection and allow it to be answered at this point with sufficient foundation.
Thank you. What did you learn in relation to the relevance of Ned Snyder and Charles Vallow?
In reviewing police reports from Chandler Police Department and body cam footage, I believe from Gilbert Police Department, Charles Vallow makes comments that his wife, Lori Vallow, was referring to him as variations on the name Ned Snyder. Additionally, the name Ned and variations of the name Ned Snyder appear in Lori Vallow's iCloud accounts, again, in reference to Charles Vallow.
So if you guys remember the body cam of Charles Vallow when he was trying to convince the police that Lori was losing it, right? She was cuckoo. And he was saying, she keeps telling me I'm Ned Snyder. And they're like, what are you talking about? They thought he was crazy. That whole thing was really frustrating to watch as well.
And then there's also one on there, bodies possessed after original occupant dies. What was it about that stood out to you?
The concept of possession is sort of prevalent through this investigation. This is, I believe, the first time we start seeing it, where wherein Charles Vallow has become possessed by an entity named Ned. So again, I spoke yesterday about there being a lot of aliases in this case with Chad and Lori, but also with some of the victims in this case where they are possessed by entities and therefore then being referred to by these names, Ned being one of them for Charles.
And then the next search on there, can you read the date and what that search was?
January 31st, 2019, Ned Schneider, Louisiana, obituary 1997.
And did that stand out to you for the same reasons you just explained?
It did.
And then the next one on there, can you read that and what the date and what the search was?
March 6th, 2019, June 26th, star sign, are Cancer and Leo compatible. May 4 sign, Taurus and Leo compatible.
Oh my.
And when we're looking at this one, what stood out?
Chad Daybell was looking to the stars to see who was more compatible with his sign, Lori or his wife that he had 5 children with.
About this particular search.
Lori Vallow's birthday is June 26th, making her a Cancer. May 4th was Tammy's birthday, making her a Taurus. And Chad Daybell's birthday is August 11th, which makes him a Leo. And then the search of the compatibility between those signs.
I'm Googling Ned Snyder, Louisiana right now.
And on March 6th of 2019, do you know if Tammy Daybell was still alive?
She was.
Ned.
And you indicated Chad and Lori had met approximately when?
October 26th, 2018.
And looking at the next search, can you read the date and talk a little bit about that one?
Did they say 99?
May 5th, 2019, Malachite and eBay Malachite jewelry.
And what stood out about that to you?
Chad and Lori eventually ended up purchasing malachite stone wedding bands.
And again, May 5th, was Tammy still alive?
She was.
What stood out about, or excuse me, on the next one, can you say the date and what that search was?
June 1st, 2019, Iplos.
And what caught your attention with regard to that search?
In reviewing the iCloud data and seeing text messages, it becomes apparent that Hiplos is another entity name for Charles Vallow, replacing Ned.
So both Ned Schneider and Hiplos or Iplos are names associated with Charles Vallow.
Correct.
And on June 1st of 2019, do you know if Charles Vallow was still alive?
He was.
How about the next search, the date and that search?
July 9th, 2019, when you surprised someone with accusations.
What caught your attention in relation to that search?
That search was conducted 2 days before Charles was shot and killed.
And then the next one, the one on September 8th, 2019, you could talk about that search.
SSW wind, and what is the definition of SSW direction?
What caught your attention with that wind search?
That search occurred the last day of Tylee Ryan's sighting, and we believe she was burned and buried on his property the following day.
We talked a little bit before, there were other searches in relation to this email. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
In your review of those, were there any other searches for wind direction?
Not that I saw.
So this was not a common search done by or associated with this email address?
No.
And then the last one on there, if you could say the date and what that one is?
October 8th, 2019, Rhode Island area code.
And what was it about this search that drew your attention?
As mentioned yesterday, there were numerous phones involved in this investigation. On October 8th, 2019, the 401 number we spoke about yesterday was activated, which is the 401 is the area code for Rhode Island.
And as you said, we talked about that one yesterday. And is that one that Chad had let Lori know he was going to text her from that 401 number?
That's correct.
And did that occur around the same date?
I believe it was the day after. Yeah, it was. I think there was an issue setting up the actual account. So it was the 9th, I believe, that he texted from his known number to Lori saying he would call from a 401.
And then if we move to the next slide, can you talk a little bit about what we're seeing on this slide?
Again, it's a summary of search activity of interest observed in the lollytimeforever@gmail.com account from March 7th, 2019.
Now we have Lolly Time Forever. Remember, that's Lori's dead sister, not the one that grew up and then died. The one that died as a baby before she was born. Lolly Time Forever. I don't know why I find that to be the most creepy thing. Why?
Through December 14th, 2019.
And that lolly time forever at Gmail, did you determine who the associated user is?
Lori Vallow.
She is so weird.
And on this first search, can you talk about what we're seeing there?
May 7th, 2019, malachite.
I think you've already talked about the malachite. I believe you said that's a stone that was that ended up in Chad and Lori's wedding bands or wedding
That's
rings.
correct, yes.
And when we look at the date there, was that date significant to you?
May 7th?
Well, I guess let me ask it this way. On May 7th, was Tammy still alive?
Yes, both Charles and Tammy were still alive at this point.
And the next search, if you could talk about the date and what that one is.
July 21st, 2019, Gerber Life Policy, Life Insurance for Children, the Grow Up Plan.
Oh, so you remember we heard Seth talk about Sebastian's Gerber grow up plan? Well, Lori, or Chad actually, on Chad's computer, searched Gerber grow up plan, but they never bought them.
And what was it about that search that stood out?
We found it of interest, seeing as how children were missing and she was searching for life insurance for children.
And to be clear, through the investigation, did you ever determine if life insurance had been purchased for the children?
No, we did not.
Did you hear that? While they were missing, she was searching actively.
That stood out.
We found it of interest, seeing as how children were missing and she was searching for life insurance for children.
And to be clear, through the investigation, did you ever determine if life insurance had been purchased for the children?
No, we did not.
And to the best of your knowledge, there was no life insurance?
No.
And the next search there and the date?
July 26, 2019, Phoenix Pet Services, Craigslist, Self-Service Dog, Little Angel Service Dogs for Sale, and Offer Up Phoenix.
And there's several searches there.
Correct.
And they appear to be in relation to a service dog.
That's correct.
Why did that stand out to you in this case?
JJ had a service dog at the time, and this search occurred roughly 2 weeks after the death of Charles Vallow. So to attempt to sell a service dog for a child after the death of his father seemed of interest to us.
And again, to be clear, JJ was still alive on July 26th.
He was, yes.
And the next search there?
August 25th, 2019, wedding bands made of malachite.
And I think we've talked a little bit about this. Did that stand out to you for the same reason?
It did, although at this point, Charles Vallow is no longer alive.
Was Tammy Daybell still alive?
She was.
And the next search?
September 20th, 2019, Kennedy Elementary, Rexburg, Idaho phone number and define possess.
And then if we also look at that next search, can you read the date on that one?
September 24th, 2019, Kennedy Elementary, Rexburg, Idaho phone number.
So for both the September 20th and September 24th, looking at that common search for the Kennedy Elementary phone number, why did that catch your attention?
We believe that JJ died around the 22nd, 23rd. So these searches would have bookended that death.
And do you know where JJ was enrolled in school around the time of his death?
At Kennedy Elementary in Rexburg, Idaho.
And on the 20th, there was that one additional search, define possess. What was it about that stood out?
Similarly to the first Ned Schneider searches that also included that possession, the concept of possession and deaths sort of going hand in hand was of interest.
And this search occurred 2 to 3 days before, or I guess 2 to 3 days before JJ's last seen alive.
That's correct.
And then if we move down to the September 30th one, can you talk a little bit about that?
How to get the back seat out of my Jeep Wrangler JK rear seat removal, how to DIY. Yeah. Rear seat removal, how to DIY -YouTube.
And it looks like there's essentially two searches there.
The way that it's written, it looks like it was probably a search and then clicking on like a YouTube link to show this, okay, if I remember correctly.
And what was it about that stood out to you?
Tylee Bryan had a Jeep Wrangler as her everyday car. At this point, she is no longer alive. or her last proof of life has passed. On September 30th, well, on October 2nd, Brandon Boudreaux is shot at from a Jeep Wrangler, from somebody in the backseat or the rear area of a Jeep Wrangler in Arizona. So the search of how to get the backseat out of my Jeep Wrangler by Lori, who has access to a Jeep Wrangler, Alex Cox is believed to have been the one that attempted to shoot Brandon Boudreaux, who would have had access to this Jeep Wrangler. Additionally, on October 2nd, there's a video of a storage unit in Idaho where Chad and Lori are on surveillance video storing a tire, like a spare tire, and what looks like the backseat of a Jeep or some sort of vehicle in a storage unit just a few days after this search.
And then if we move to the next search.
October 2nd, 2019, Gilbert, Arizona News.
What stood out about that search?
Brandon Boudreaux was shot at in Gilbert, Arizona on October 2nd.
And then the final search on here?
October 22nd, 2019, wedding dresses in Kauai.
And why did that search or those searches draw your attention?
The search was, again, wedding planning. And then also it's just days after Tammy's death and the same date as her funeral.
And when you say just
Wow. On the day of Tammy Daybell's funeral, Lori Vallow was Googling wedding dresses. Reminds me of Nicole Kessinger. The day of her funeral? Sick. And these Daybell kids think that there's nothing wrong with that? Like, what? The Daybell kids are okay with this? Going to Knox Berry Farm with dad and his new wife? Hell no, I wouldn't want to be on this jury. Oh my God.
Days after Tammy's death, do you know the day Tammy was pronounced dead?
October 19th, 2019.
So just 3 days after Tammy's death.
That's correct.
Oh, that's okay.
And you also indicated this search was done on the same day as Tammy's funeral?
That's correct.
Do you know if Chad and Lori ultimately ended up getting married?
They did.
Do you know approximately when?
In early November.
If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Blake. Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
Thank you.
All right, here we go, guys. This is the cross-examination, John Pryor to the FBI analyst of the phone records and the Google searches. I'm a Scorpio.
Judge.
Buckle in. Pryor's up.
Morning. Well, I'm not sworn, so probably I'm tactical specialist is my title. TS if it's easier.
Pryor doesn't have
Mr.
his
Pryor,
mic on.
your microphone's not working.
All right, Judge.
There you go.
Blake pulled one on me here.
Okay.
Turned off the phone. Microphone.
He's so funny.
So you're not so how would you like me to refer to you again? I'm sorry.
Tactical specialist is my title.
Okay. Is there an easier,
TS or
T.S. Heidemann, would that be fair?
that works, yes.
Okay. Okay. So, T.S. Heidemann, it sounds from your testimony that you've spent a considerable amount of time going over the evidence in this case.
That's correct, sir.
And you've familiarized yourself with a variety of topics. Those would include what happened in Arizona, right? What happened with Brandon Boudreaux?
Correct.
Okay. And what has happened here in terms of the facts and information? You spent a bit of time, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you're also aware that Chad Daybell is not implicated criminally in the death of Charles Vallow, Lori Vallow's fourth husband, correct?
That's correct.
And you're also aware that Chad Daybell is not criminally implicated in the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux in where Brandon Boudreaux was shot, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So before I get into the gist of what I'm going to talk to you about, I noticed that there's an FBI representative in the court today and that he has been here on a number of occasions watching the testimony. I can't attest to the specific number, but I know he's been here several times. Is that your officer supervisor that's here supervising your testimony?
He's not my direct supervisor, but I do work with him, yes.
Okay, so what is he here for?
Observation,
Okay.
just observe the,
And at any time prior to your testimony, did you discuss with this FBI person anything you were going to say today since he's been watching the testimony for several days?
we have not discussed it in, I mean, he's been part of the investigation for quite a while, so he knows of it, but we haven't discussed in detail.
He's so funny. I can't help it. FBI person. Look at Chad. He's like, oh, yes, this is my lawyer.
Your testimony?
He's not my direct supervisor, but I do work with him, yes.
Okay, so what is he here for?
Observation,
Okay.
just observe the,
And at any time prior to your testimony, did you discuss with this FBI person anything you were going to say today since he's been watching the testimony for several days?
we have not discussed it in, I mean, he's been part of the investigation for quite a while, so he knows of it, but we haven't discussed in detail what I'm testifying to now.
And I appreciate you saying it that way. When you say he hasn't discussed it with me in detail, what I really want to know is he discussed it with you at all in any regard, in any capacity since since this trial started.
Your Honor, I'm going to object on relevance and beyond the scope of direct.
All right. Well, the issue goes to the exclusionary order, and we need to just get to that point, Mr. Pryor, as to whether or not you believe there's been any violation of that.
And in essence, Judge, what I'm asking is whether she's in any regard spoken to that representative of the FBI about this case.
You can ask the question.
That's the question I'm asking.
About this case, yes, we have spoken about this case.
And when did you speak?
Over the last 4 years,
Okay.
4.5 years.
Did you speak in the last week during the testimony of this case?
Possibly. I don't remember off the top of my head if we had any other than if I was going to testify or
Okay.
timing.
And what I'm concerned about is this, is that he's not your direct supervisor, right?
That's correct.
And there's no need to report to him, right?
It's a co-situation. I don't necessarily need to report to him, but I do, as a courtesy, I am on his squad, but I have a different direct supervisor. So as a courtesy, I like to let him know if I'm in the office
All
or
right.
not. Yes.
And I'm going to move on. I just wanted to actually, part of that was the judge's exclusionary rule and whether or not you folks are communicating about this case. And your answer is maybe a little bit, but not in any significant way, right?
Not in any significant way, not beyond what we've talked about in the last 4+ years now.
And even though this FBI officer isn't your direct supervisor, you're just talking in general about this case, right?
I can't say in the last week or so if we have or not. Any details? Nothing that stands out, no.
Okay, so you don't remember whether you talked to somebody or not in the last week about a very important case in your life. Is that what you're telling
Your
me?
Honor, I'm going to object as argumentative and asked and answered.
Sustained.
Thank you, Olive.
Now, you identified that you were looking into attribution information and looking for Google searches as it related to this case, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, now you know the circumstances regarding J.J. Vallow's death, correct?
As much as I can.
Much as you can,
Yeah.
right? And you have an approximate date as to when you believe J.J. Vallow was killed, right?
Correct.
And what date was that?
Well, the last proof of life was September 22nd, 2019 in the morning. We have a photo of that date. So somewhere between then and approximately September 23rd.
All right, so the afternoon of September 22nd until the morning of September 23rd, correct? Is that fair?
Yeah, morning, early afternoon, correct. Yes.
Morning, early afternoon of September 23rd.
I don't remember the exact
Oh,
time.
it's
but
okay.
Yes, those time frames.
Well, this is a problem. Our court reporter is never going to be able to keep up when you're talking at the same time and you're both actually doing it. So please.
Okay, see how Boyce is like, no. They're judges, good judges, what I've noticed, are very protective of their court reporters. That's why they halt this shit right away, because they can't keep up. But if you notice, Judge, when we watched Coworkers last hearing, he was like, I don't know, they were going real fast and getting through, and he's like, oh, hold on. I got to make sure my court reporter's okay. You all right? Judge, I can't. I think Boyce is a very respectful, fair judge. I'm really impressed with him. I really do like him. I've grown to really like him.
J. Vallow was killed, right?
Correct.
And what date was that?
Well, the last proof of life was September 22nd, 2019 in the morning. We have a photo of that date. So somewhere between then and approximately September 23rd.
All right, so the afternoon of September 22nd until the morning of September 23rd, correct? Is that fair?
Yeah, morning, early afternoon, correct? Yes.
Morning, early afternoon of September
I
23rd?
don't remember the exact.
Oh, it's
but
okay.
Yes, those time frames.
Well, this is a problem. Our court reporter is never going to be able to keep up when you're talking at the same time and you're both actually doing it. So please wait for an answer, wait for a new question, and don't talk over each other. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So if and please don't let me misrepresent your testimony. You believe that JJ Vallow was murdered the afternoon of September 22nd up until either late morning or sometime early September 23rd, correct?
That's correct.
And at the time, are you aware of the 4 people who were around JJ Vallow at that specific time?
What 4 people? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. You're aware that JJ Vallow was allegedly murdered either in an apartment of Lori Vallow's or a close proximity to that. You agree with that, right?
I don't know that we know exactly where he was killed. No.
Okay. But you do know that JJ Vallow was being watched by Alex Cox that day and that evening of the 22nd, correct?
Partially, yes.
Okay. And you know that Melanie Gibb was there on the evening of the 22nd at Lori Vallow's apartment, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And you know that David Warwick was there on the 22nd
Get it
on the
prior.
evening of the day or the day that JJ Vallow
Get
was
it
murdered,
prior.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And so we have Lori Vallow, correct? On that day?
Yes.
Alex Cox on that day, correct?
Correct.
Melanie Gibb on that day, correct?
Correct.
David Warwick on that day, correct?
Correct.
So I'm having some difficulty with you bringing up these Google searches. And this is why I'm having some difficulty is you're talking today about searching these people's and talking about events, and we'll get to these events in a minute. I don't see any Google searches on Melanie Gibb or David Warwick. And why is that?
Your Honor, I'm going to object as argumentative.
I loved this because we all know Melanie Gibb and David Warlocks and all those wizards and Zulema and all these motherfuckers. They were all involved up to their eyeballs. And they got immunity from the state. You guys know that, right? In Lori's trial and in this trial. All these wackos are free to do whatever the fuck they want, whenever the fuck they want. They probably all still believe this bullshit garbage, but they're testifying against Chad and Lori for their freedom because they all had knowledge. They all knew those children were dead. I firmly believe that. That is my opinion, but I firmly believe, in my opinion, they all knew that those children were no longer alive.
Overruled.
Why don't I have any Google search information on Melanie Gibb or David Warwick?
I'm not aware if, I don't know off the top of my head if any legal process was served on those individuals or not.
Well, and this is what I'm having some difficulty with. This is what I'm struggling with.
Your Honor, objection to the narrative. If he wants to ask a question.
I'll sustain that. Just
Okay.
questions, Mr. Pryor.
Okay. Well, if
See how they
David-
shut him down? We're going to listen to that on normal speed. It's bullshit because these people got deals. They should have never gotten deals. Why can't we hold people responsible? Why do they only go for the key people? Like, oh, we got to get the mom, and then Chad was the mom's boyfriend. Why can't we get this motherfucker and this motherfucker and this motherfucker who all knew? David Warlock and Melanie Gibb were in the house. And David Warlock testified in Lori's trial that he woke up from a nightmare. And Melanie Gibb said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I need to see JJ. I need to see JJ." No, they know. And they knew. Oh, it infuriates me.
On that day?
Yes.
Alex Cox on that day, correct?
Calm down, Jay.
Correct.
Melanie Gibb on that day, correct?
Correct.
David Warwick on that day, correct?
They're all evil.
So I'm having some difficulty with you bringing up these Google searches. And this is why I'm having some difficulty is you're talking today about searching these people's and talking about events, and we'll get to these events in a minute. I don't see any Google searches on Melanie Gibb or David Warwick. And why is that?
Your Honor, I'm going to object as argumentative.
Overruled.
Why don't I have any Google search information on Melanie Gibb or David Warwick?
I'm not aware if, I don't know off the top of my head if any legal process was served on those individuals or not.
Well, and this is what I'm having some difficulty with.
Me too.
This is what I'm struggling with.
Your Honor, objection to the narrative. If he wants to ask a question.
I'll sustain that. Just
Okay.
questions, Mr. Pryor.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Well, if David Warwick and Melanie Gibb were present for the murder of JJ Vallow, why aren't we looking into their Google searches?
I don't actually write the search warrant, sir, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if they were, who would have done that.
Okay. But it's common knowledge that they were at least there, right?
For a partial time, yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're also aware as part of your investigation that, and we can discuss when we think this took place, but Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow were having a relationship,
It makes
correct?
me so mad.
Yes, sir.
And they were engaged in a romantic relationship.
Yes, sir.
And it may have been when Charles Vallow was alive. It may have been after that, but we do know that after Charles Vallow's death, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were in a relationship.
That's correct.
And Chad was still married to Tammy Daybell at that time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When someone's in a relationship and you're looking at Google searches, could some of these Google searches be explained that he's trying to hide his extramarital affair with Lori Vallow?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the.
Well, let me go over it this way. You saw on 3/6 of 2019, May 6th of 2019. Would you like me to put this up so we can look at this? Would that be easier for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh. Now tell me how I operate this. That's going to be a problem.
Which
Casey.
exhibit is this?
Judge, I don't have the number on it. It was what Ms. Blake was just talking to as part of the attribution and the Googles.
That 184A?
I think so.
Okay, 184A, then I'll note, not the PowerPoint, but the printout copy can be displayed to the witness and published for cross-exam.
And please excuse me, at my age, technology is just getting hooked up to Bluetooth is a challenge for me.
Okay, I put this together. I repeated it because that shit's funny.
The witness and published for cross-exam.
And please excuse me, at my age, technology is just getting hooked up to Bluetooth is a challenge for me. Hooked up to Bluetooth is a challenge for me.
The judge laughed.
So we're looking at
Oh,
3/6
so
of 2019, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Now, before I start, one of the things I have some difficulty with is we don't know who did these Google searches, right?
Correct. I cannot say that I witnessed Chad Daybell type these into a search bar, but somebody with access to the Chad Daybell account
So if there was,
conducted searches, yes.
Judge, I'll pause. I'm sorry. The next question's already in my head, and it's just getting it to spit out, and I'll try to control myself a little bit.
What?
So
What did he say? I didn't catch that
I
one.
have some difficulty with is we don't know who did these Google searches, right?
Correct. I cannot say that I witnessed Chad Daybell type these into a search bar, but somebody with access to the Chad Daybell account
So if there was,
conducted searches, yes.
Judge, I'll pause. I'm sorry. The next question's already in my head, and it's just getting it to spit out, and I'll try to control myself a little bit.
Oh, he was talking too fast, and he said the next question was in my head, and I'll try to control myself a little bit. In other words, he needs to slow the F down.
We don't know who did these Google searches, right?
Correct. I cannot say that I witnessed Chad Daybell type these into a search bar, but somebody with access to the Chad Daybell account
So if there was,
conducted searches, yes.
Judge, I'll pause. I'm sorry. The next question's already in my head, and it's just getting it to spit out, and I'll try to control myself a little bit. So you put this off of a computer at Chad Daybell's house, right?
I reviewed a search warrant return from Google is what I was looking at. So not the computer directly, no.
So other than the time when Tammy Daybell passed away, are you aware that there were 3 or 4 other people who were living in Chad Daybell's house at the time?
I don't know. I think at least one child, but there could have been more. It's possible.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we don't know who actually did these searches, right?
Or I don't know from what device these were searched. No, I mean, it could have been a phone. You could be logging into from different devices. Correct.
Okay. So I want to start, and we'll deal with the Ned Schneider ones in a minute here. 3/6/2019. Tammy Daybell's still alive, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm looking at that, and that on 3/6/2019, Chad Daybell was already in this relationship with Lori Vallow, right?
Correct.
So, and I don't want you don't have to say what you're thinking, but it looks like June 26 star sign are Cancer, Lead compatible, and Leo compatible. And also May 4 sign Taurus and Leo compatible. That's what that is, right?
Correct.
And what your testimony said is that it looks like someone's trying to see whether, if we assume that it's Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell in the Cancer and Leo, right? That's what you're sort of implying to this jury, isn't it?
Well, based on the birth dates, May
Right.
4th and June 26th, correct? Yes.
Okay. And based on the birth dates, May 4th of Taurus and Leo compatible as well, right? On March 6th.
Yes.
So if someone is trying to find out and is involved in an extramarital relationship, and you're Googling whether or not your current spouse or your new girlfriend are compatible, that would be a reasonable explanation, would it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we go back and look at the malachite, eBay malachite jewelry on May 5, right?
Correct.
Okay. And if you're talking to someone that you're having an extramarital affair, and they encourage you to say, oh, someday maybe we could be together. I love malachite. And she starts dropping hints. That could be an explanation for that as well, right?
It could, but I believe that Chad's malachite searches began before Lori's.
Oh, yeah, but I understand the searches.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I understand that. But why don't you show me the phone records where they talked about malachite and that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell discussed the issue of malachite? Did you see any of those?
I can't remember if they were in any text messages or not, but ultimately they purchased wedding bands that were malachite wedding bands. Yes.
Okay. And were you also aware that during this time there was discussion with Alex Cox and Zuluma Pastenes about malachite as well?
I don't remember off the top of my head. No, sir.
Okay. All right. So we don't know whether this search for malachite was a discussion between a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or whether or not it was about Alex Cox and his future marriage to Zuluma Pastenes, right?
Objection, Your Honor. States facts not in evidence and argumentative.
Sustained.
Now, the Ned Schneider issue. Again, when was Charles Vallow murdered by Lori Vallow and Alex Cox?
July 11th, 2019.
Okay. So there was a discussion about this, and the first time you ever heard about Ned Schneider was when Charles Vallow brought it up in an audio recording about his wife at the time, correct?
I believe that's correct. Somewhere in early January.
And the date of that was when?
I don't have the exact date of the body cam recordings or the police reports, but I believe it's pretty close to this time frame.
Prior to that time frame, right?
Yeah, right in that general time frame.
Okay. So, and in that general time frame, there was a discussion of Ned Schneider, right?
Yes, sir.
And at that point, it's your position that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were involved in an extramarital affair at that point.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you happen to look into the fact that Charles Vallow and Lori Vallow called off their divorce and tried to reconcile their marriage in February of 2019?
I do. Yes, I do remember that. I don't remember the time frame, but that sounds probably pretty close. Yeah.
You don't remember exactly when in February, but they did attempt a reconciliation and basically tried to renew their relationship, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the idea of Ned Schneider, you didn't see anything else in Chad Daybell prior to January 28th of 2019, did you?
Did I see anything
with Ned Schneider and Chad Daybell making any look into what Ned Schneider was all about, right? Prior to this?
Prior to, no, this I believe was the first search, at least in this time frame.
Okay.
That Ned Schneider appeared in Chad's Google searches.
Okay. So at that point, we can't make any assumptions, obviously, right?
No.
Okay. But we do know that as far as you're concerned, on the 28th of January 2019, somehow Chad Daybell learned about the topic of Ned Schneider and decided to do a Google search and see what that was all about, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Misstates the testimony.
Overruled. You can answer.
I don't know if he learned of it or if he was doing searches. He did searches for various individuals pretty frequently. Right. This is the only one that we found that had connection to other pieces of evidence in the case.
And you just led into my next question, and thank you for doing that. Because when I reviewed all of this evidence, I saw that it was not uncommon when a topic came up for someone who was using that computer to do a search on a number of different topics. That would be fair, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if he were to learn about the name Ned Schneider, it would be consistent with his, or whoever was using that computer, to Google it and see what it was all about. Would that be fair?
Potentially, I can't speak of when he learned that name or if he was
Okay.
searching it like he was a lot of other names. I'm not sure the order of that, no.
But his history shows that there's a lot of inquiry into various names, various topics, and that was something that was going on that computer quite frequently. Hundreds of thousands of searches, right?
Certainly lots of searches, yes.
Right. And then we go down to Malachite, and we don't know where he got the name Malachite from, but then he started searching that as well, right?
Correct.
And then he got to Hiplos, and we don't know what the story is on Hiplos, but he typed in that name, so he must have got the name from somewhere and started as that, right?
Correct.
And then you get down to 7/19 of 2019. Now, when you say you surprise someone with accusations, we don't know who typed that in, right?
Again, somebody, I can't say specifically, but somebody with access to the chad.daybell@gmail.com account.
So it could be someone's trying to learn about how you react when a spouse finds out that you're cheating on her, right?
Yes, it could be.
Okay. And we don't know who did the south-southwest wind and what is the definition of that, right?
Again, all I can say is it was somebody with access to that account.
Right. And when you're talking about the day before the accusation is, or the prosecutors claiming that may have been the day that Heidi Ryan was put in the ground on 9/9, but you're also aware that on 9/9, Chad Daybell sent an email to his wife at the time, Tammy Daybell, and said, I'm going to burn some limbs in the backyard the next day, right?
I believe that text message was sent on the 9th that he said he
Right.
wanted to burn, yes,
Yeah.
limbs, yeah.
Right. So on the 8th, he's checking the wind. And on the 9th, he sends an email to his wife saying, I'm going to burn some limbs in the backyard. Right?
Correct.
Okay. And then Rhode Island
I
area
know
code.
he's so shifty, man.
Now, you don't know what kind of phones we're dealing with. These aren't like track phones, are they? Or do you know what kind of phones these are?
I believe they might actually be track phones.
Go ahead.
No, that's,
Oh, you believe they are all track phones, right?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I mean,
She's like, that's it.
so track phone is kind of a provider. So if you're asking like, is it an iPhone or an Android? I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
But the track phone, the way that works, and if you don't know, please tell me if you don't have knowledge of this, but the way the track phone works is you buy the phone for a period of 90 days. It expires and you can either buy another phone rather inexpensively, or you have to buy the adding the minutes thing. And there's no real discernible difference in the cost, right?
Correct. Yeah, you can keep the phone and change the number, correct?
Right. Or you can just get a different phone and same thing. And you buy that at, I don't want to give anybody publicity, but large retail stores that sell a lot of groceries and other things, right?
Yes.
You know what we're talking about. Okay. So if you're having an affair with somebody and you don't want to get discovered that you're having this affair with another woman while you're still married, it wouldn't be illogical for you to buy a number of phones. And as the phones expire, you just buy another phone to sort of protect yourself from being discovered that you're having this affair. Would that be fair?
Correct. I mean, in this
Okay.
situation, he's not buying phones. It's changed. It's the same phone. The IMEI number stayed the same on all of them. So
Right.
the device didn't change, but the phone number did. Yes. Same idea.
So that would be, it's possible that what he's trying to do is he's trying to cover up the fact that he doesn't want to be discovered by his wife that he's cheating on her, right?
Correct.
Okay. And Judge, if I can,
He did pretty good with that.
ask the court again, the number for the summary of search activity with Lolly time with Lori Vallow, what that exhibit was again?
It's 184A.
If I have permission, Judge, may I have permission to publish?
You can publish that page, which is a printed copy of the PowerPoint presentation.
So again, we see the subject of Malachite and whoever is on Lolly time, whether it's Lori Vallow or whatever, is doing that, correct?
Correct.
Now, this is what is interesting to me on 7/21 of 2019.
Tell us, Prior.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor. Again, there's a narrative. I'd move to strike and counsel and ask that he ask a question.
Yeah,
I'll ask him.
it is sustained, and Mr. Pryor, please refrain from that. It's just
Okay.
questions.
All right. So 7/21 of 2019, and my notes seem to indicate that you said that was a short time after Lori Vallow and Alex Cox murdered Charles Vallow. Is that fair?
Yes, that would have been approximately 10 days after Charles's death.
Okay. And prior to Lori Vallow moving to Idaho, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So you know from the facts, and you familiarized yourself with the Charles Vallow case, right?
That's correct.
And you know from the facts that at the time Charles Vallow was murdered, Lori Vallow was there, wasn't she?
At approximately the same time. I don't know the exact timing. I know she left
Right.
at a certain point, but I don't know exactly the timeframe. Yes.
Well, you know that after the murder, that Lori Vallow was interviewed in front of the house right after the murder.
That's correct. Yes.
You also know that she left a little bit of time because prior to the murder, Tylee Ryan was present and so was JJ Vallow at the time, or at around the circumstances relating to the murder of Charles Vallow, correct?
Correct.
So it seems then that at least Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow would have knowledge or at least information as it relates to the murder of Charles Vallow. Would that seem logical?
Yes, it would.
Okay. So if someone's looking and realizing that their children witnessed the murder of their father by their own brother, that's a motive for a number of things, right?
I suppose.
Okay. It's also a motive on 7/21 of 2019 to come up with a reason to get rid of a child if that child witnessed the murder of their stepfather, correct?
Potentially.
Okay. Potentially?
I don't know if they saw that. I believe that Lori and the children left. I think if I understand right, there's a bit of discrepancy about if the kids were actually there to witness the shooting, but I thought that they left prior to the actual shooting.
Well,
but they listened to there was an argument. Yes.
And there's a discussion because part of the FBI and the officers down there interviewed witnesses who suggested both sides of that issue, correct?
Correct. I don't know if we know. I mean, Tylee obviously isn't here to ask, so we're not sure what exactly she saw at the time.
Yeah. So we don't know what JJ saw. We don't know what Tylee saw because the evidence goes both ways in terms of what exactly did they see in regards to the murder of Charles Vallow, right?
I believe Tylee was interviewed, and I don't recall what her interview stated.
Okay.
But I don't remember about JJ.
Okay. But you also know that one of Tylee's very close friends was interviewed and provided information about what Tylee said as well, right?
I don't remember that, but that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. So then that's why there's some discussion because we don't know exactly where Tylee was when Alex Cox murdered Charles Vallow, right?
Correct.
Okay. So Lori Vallow, before she comes to Idaho on 7/21 of 2019, searches a life insurance policy for her children. Okay. Now there's no equal discussion I didn't see it and I looked at the stuff. I didn't see anything where Chad Daybell talked about life insurance for the children. He didn't, did he?
No, sir.
And there's no email or search on let's kill 2 kids, right? By Chad Daybell?
No.
Okay. And would you agree with me that part of the rationale of bringing up Hiplos and James and Elena is because of the religious connotation, right?
Not necessarily religious connotation. It just provides some context in other evidence because of the aliases. And it gets complicated with the names that they call each other.
Right.
So to see that they're being searched by these individuals and to provide context for later of where these names are coming from.
Okay. Now, so we have some references to religion, calling each other religious names. And you're aware that both of these folks have strong religious beliefs.
Yes, sir.
And you're aware Melanie Gibb has strong religious beliefs.
Yes, sir.
David Warwick has strong religious beliefs.
Yes, sir.
Zaluma Pastenes, Alex's wife, strong religious beliefs.
Yes.
In fact, the circle of all these people, there's repeated references to religion, right?
Absolutely.
Strong references to religion.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess what I'm kind of wondering, is it a bigger motive to kill 2 kids by their mother and brother to cover up the murder of a 4th husband? Or is it because they killed the kids because Chad, Lori, Melanie Gibb, and David Warwick, and Zaluma Pastenes have strong religious beliefs? Which one is a greater motive to murder children?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained.
Yeah. (9:30 of 2019). How to get the back seat out of a Jeep. And that's Lori Vallow, right?
Yes, sir.
There's nothing about Chad Daybell trying to figure out how to get the back seat out of a Jeep, right?
No, sir.
And I guess if a girlfriend asks you to help me get a tire because somebody wants to use the Jeep, that would explain why Chad was helping his girlfriend load and unload a tire, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Gilbert, Arizona News on the day that Brandon Boudreaux, and you've previously testified that Brandon Boudreaux, Chad Daybell is not criminally implicated in anything with Brandon Boudreaux, correct?
He's not being charged, correct, sir.
He's what?
He's not being charged.
Right,
in
not being
correct,
charged,
yes.
not being pursued for anything for any reason. But
Objection, Your Honor. That misstates the testimony.
Sustained. And again, counsel, try to let the witness finish her response before you get into another question, please.
Your Honor, and I would move to strike counsel's last statement.
I'll strike that all. instruct the jurors not to consider that last statement.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. So your comment is Chad Daybell has not been charged. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you see a likewise Google search on Chad Daybell's Google account that talked about Gilbert, Arizona on that day?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And then you're aware that that on 10/22 of 2019, are you aware that Lori Vallow was in Hawaii by herself with a friend?
Yes.
And you were aware that her friend was Audrey?
Yes, Audrey and maybe Melanie Boudreau. I know there was some shuffling there, but I don't remember the exact time frame, but
Right.
yes.
But they were, about 10/22 of 2019, Lori Vallow and a couple of friends went to Hawaii, and I believe they were in Kauai, I remember. Is that fair?
I don't remember what island, but yes, that sounds fair.
But the purpose of them being there was to start the process of getting a wedding dress for Audrey Boudreau, right?
I do not know that. No, sir.
Okay. But the three of them were there, right?
Yes.
Okay. You just don't know why they were there and what they were doing there on that day, right?
Yeah, it seemed like kind of a spontaneous.
So if Audrey Boudreau was looking for a wedding dress on 10/22 of 2009.
Your Honor, objection. Counsel stating facts not in evidence.
Yeah, there's no Audrey Boudreau, Mr. Pryor.
There's no Audrey.
I'm sorry, Judge.
Audrey Boudreau.
Baratori, Judge. I'm sorry. I said Boudreau. It's Baratori. I got the name wrong. No, is that the correct name?
Audrey Baratiero or Melanie Boudreau. Yeah.
I got them backwards.
They both were in Hawaii, but yeah, I'm not sure which one you're
With her.
correct. At different, I think some of them overlapped, but at different times. I don't know on 10/22 exactly off the top of my head. No.
Right. And you don't know.
He says with her.
Or Melanie Boudreau. Yeah.
Look at Chad's face.
Them backwards.
They both were in Hawaii, but yeah, I'm not sure which one you're
With her.
correct. At different, I think some of them overlapped, but at different times. I don't know on 10/22 exactly off the top of my head. No.
Right. And you don't know, and you don't have facts one way or the other as to whether or not on that particular day they were looking for wedding dresses, right?
I don't, other than that search. No.
Okay. Judge, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Blake, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll start with the last question. You were asked about Audrey Baratario and searching for wedding dresses. Are you aware if Audrey's married?
At the time, I don't believe she was. No.
Anything in your investigation or records you reviewed that showed she was engaged?
I believe she'd mentioned, or I don't think she was actually married. No. I'm trying to remember now.
Wait,
I don't
what?
think she was.
She said engaged, not married.
And you were asked about the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreau. And I think you indicated Chad has not been
How
charged
come
in that. Is
no
that
one
correct?
Stopped her. Did you hear that?
And you were asked about the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreau. And I think you indicated Chad has not been charged in that. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Yes.
And in relation to Charles Vallow, Chad has not been charged. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Are you still part of any active investigation in those cases?
Am I on to testify in those cases?
Are you assisting in any further investigation if there is any going on?
No.
And those are being handled by agencies in Arizona. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Hi, Jeff.
So all you can say right now is that Chad hasn't been charged.
Yeah, I haven't really followed that portion of it. No, other than what was included in this investigation. Yes.
You were asked about those Ned Snyder searches. Are you aware through your investigation who designated Charles as Ned?
I guess Lori calls Charles Ned is the first time we sort of hear that on the body cam footage. Charles is relaying that Lori refers to him as Ned. I don't know where that name comes from. No, I don't know if she brought it up or if Chad gave her that name. I don't know how that worked.
And the searches from Chad were being done around the same time Charles is reporting that Lori's calling him Ned Schneider.
It's around the same time. Yes.
You were asked about the potential for someone else to use Chad's email to do some searches.
Potentially, yes.
Did you find any searches in related to that email, to Chad's email, regarding divorce or separation?
Not that I recall.
You were also asked about people changing phone numbers to hide an affair.
Yes.
Are there, in your experience, do people involved in criminal activity also switch phone numbers?
Yes.
Bring it all in.
And then there was some talk about Melanie. Actually, let me back up. There was some extensive discussion regarding the killing of Charles Vallow and where
JJ and Kylie were. Do you know where they were at the time Charles was actually shot?
I don't believe they were there. I believe the report said that Lori took the children to, I think they went to Burger King or something. But I don't know if that was corroborated or not.
And we talked about the phone attribution earlier, and with one of Chad's numbers, you'd made reference to attributing that number to him in part because of a mortuary call. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that call to the mortuary, do you recall what day that took place?
I believe it was July 11th, 2019.
And when was Charles killed?
The same day.
And do you know where the mortuary was located that he placed that call to?
In Arizona, but I don't remember which city.
And Charles was killed in Arizona?
That's correct.
Then you were asked quite a bit about Melanie Gibb and David Warwick. Their names came up at least. Is that fair?
Yes.
Did Melanie, through your investigation, did you determine whether, or was there anything to indicate Melanie Gibb or David Warwick profited from JJ's death?
Judge, objection goes beyond the scope.
Overruled.
I did not learn of anything why they would benefit from JJ's death, no.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right. I don't believe that opened any doors for additional recross. Did you have anything, Mr. Pryor?
Judge, I would have a couple subjects, but if the court's determination is that there's nothing open for recross, I'll defer to the court's wisdom.
All right. That'll conclude then the testimony of this witness.
The judge says, okay. I'll refer to the court's wisdom. He's such a dumbass. Oh, man.
Judge, I would have a couple subjects, but if the court's determination is that there's nothing open for recross, I'll defer to the court's wisdom.
All right. That'll conclude then the testimony of this witness. Practical Agent Heidemann, you are done testifying. Is this witness going to be recalled, do you believe?
She is going to be recalled by the state. I'm not sure if she's being recalled by the defense.
Not by the defense, Judge.
Okay. Since you are going to be recalled, I'll just remind you there is an exclusionary order in place. You're not permitted to discuss your testimony or review the testimony of other witnesses in the case in between now and the time that you're recalled. If you don't comply with that order, you may be prohibited from further testimony. So please comply with that.
Sure.
All right.
And we are.
You can go ahead and step down then, and I'll inquire of the state momentarily as to who they will be calling as their next witness.
So they ended up taking lunch at that point. So that's where I stopped. So again, I'm going to go eat dinner, and then I'll be back here at 7:30 in about 50 minutes or so. And we'll watch Scott Peterson's. It's only 20 minutes long, so it's not going to be a super long live. I know. How can he even laugh? It makes me just, So hopefully I'll see you guys back here. When this ends, you should portal over to the Scott Peterson live. If for some reason you do not, the link is in the chat. So thank you for joining. We will reconvene for more Daybell on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. I will get the event up so you guys can hit the notification. Potato coming in hot at the end.
Coming in hot. Just like the heater.
Thank you guys for your support and for all the subscribers. We are moving and grooving. Let's roll our credits. I'll see you guys in just a little bit.
Where do you think you're going? Nobody's leaving. Nobody's walking out on this fun old-fashioned family Christmas. No, we're all in this together.
Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
Just based on my observations, her hair was very greasy.
You want a cough drop? You talk way too much. I have heard
I had a hard time hearing you. Do you mind pulling your microphone down and then aiming it up at your chin?
feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to friends, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time.
Jennifer or Jennifer?
Jennifer loves horses.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Bye, Jennifer.
Because we bought snacks because, you know, he's 15 and snacks.
I'm gonna get drunk and ride my horse.